items on the statutory public meeting tonight, and they are quite process driven. I know some of the participants here on the first application have been through this before. On the second application, it's process driven to protect everybody, to protect everybody's democratic rights here. So it's bear with us. We'll get through this. Introduction of amendments to the agenda, Clerk.
Through you, Mayor Lawrence, I have none.
Thank you. The motion to confirm the agenda for the statutory public meeting of November 17th be approved as presented. Moved by Councillor Lego, seconded by Councillor Cassidy. All in favor? Carried. Declarations of pecuniary interest. Mr. Clerk.
Through you, Mayor Lawrence, I do have one. Councillor Fenelon has declared interest in item number 5 as it is listed on the agenda, which is the official plan and zoning bylaw amendment applications respecting the River Glory First Nations Church. Councillor Fenelon has worked with the applicant, so he is declaring interest in that item.
All right, and Councillor Fenelon knows how to, exit to the exit and come back in.
Yes, so our process for that involves muting their microphone and turning their video off.
Thank you. 94 King Street zoning bylaw amendment number Z11-2021, applicant James Southall. Introduction and overview. This public meeting is being held pursuant to Section 34 of the Planning Act, RSO 1990, Chapter page 13, as amended by James Southall for the subject property known locally as 94 King Street. The subject property is described legally as Plan M220, Lot 179, Parcel 13427. The purpose of the zoning bylaw amendment is to permit the construction of a 6-unit dwelling on the subject property, which is not a permitted use in the residential type 2 R2 zone. A quadruplex is permitted use within the R2 zone, subject to meeting the minimum lot standard. The planning coordinator will confirm how notice was served to advertise the public meeting.
Through you, Mayor Lawrence, notice was circulated to internal staff and external bodies by email. Notice was advertised in the Sioux Bulletin and on the municipal website and social media. It was sent by mail to property owners within 120 meters of the subject property and to various agencies, and signs were also posted at the property entrance.
Thank you. The planning coordinator will provide a summary of the application.
Thank you. Through you, Mayor Lawrence, an application for zoning bylaw amendment was submitted by James Southall for the subject property at 94 King Street. The applicant is proposing to construct a 6-unit residential dwelling on the subject property. The subject property is currently zoned residential type 2, R2, which permits a residential dwelling with up to 4 units as of right. The R2 zone does not permit a residential dwelling with 6 units, and so a zoning bylaw amendment is required. The subject property has lot frontage on King Street, which is an open, municipally maintained road, as well as access on the back lane, which is also municipally maintained. The subject property is located directly adjacent to the area identified as the commercial core on the official plan, and various surrounding uses include single detached dwellings, a quadruplex, commercial and institutional uses, and these are all located around the subject property. The subject property currently contains a single detached dwelling and 2 accessory buildings, each of which are proposed to be removed and replaced with the 6-unit dwelling. 4 one-bedroom units and 2 studio units are proposed, with the units ranging in size from 41 square meters to 50 square meters. The site plan submitted with the application and included in the council report package shows that parking spaces are provided on the north side of the proposed building and will be accessed from the back lane. Snow storage and green space is also indicated on the proposed site plan. The proposed dwelling will meet all of the technical zoning provisions of the R2 zone, as well as providing the required parking spaces. The proposed rezoning is consistent with the provincial policy statement, as it would permit the intensification of an existing lot serviced with municipal water and sewage, and is development within the urban Sioux Lookout settlement area. The rezoning complies with the official plan, as the subject property is designated residential, which permits and encourages a range of housing types and tenures. The proposed dwelling would be considered high density based on the definitions in the official plan. However, the one-bedroom and studio unit makeup of the building means that the intensity of the use could be compared to a quadruplex that has multiple bedroom units. No comments were received by internal staff or external bodies regarding this application. If the amendment is approved by council, the applicant would be required to enter into a site plan control agreement. It is staff's opinion that the application is consistent with the PPS and conforms with the official plan, and it is recommended that the proposed zoning bylaw amendment be passed.
Thank you. So you've covered, I think, correspondence from government agencies and municipal staff. There is none?
That's
Thank
correct.
you. And correspondence from members of the public.
Yes, through you, Mayor Lawrence, there were 2 letters received from members of the public. So I'll read those out now. So the first is from Tanya Tekovich. I'm writing to you in regards to the proposed zoning amendment for the property at 94 King Street. I have owned my house at 91 King Street for 23 years. Since that time, our block has gone from being a neighborhood of single-family dwellings to what it is now, a neighborhood of rental units. As the town continues to allow these zoning changes, I feel that I don't even know my neighbors anymore. They are constantly changing. There is no sense of community. In the past few years, the town has approved every application for zoning bylaw amendment on our block. I'm guessing that you won't get many appeals to this one because our neighborhood is now filled with temporary residents who have no care or interest in what happens while they are living in their apartment for the short term. I don't want to spend too much time on this because I honestly feel that the decision has already been made. I will say that I don't want a sixplex on that property, and whether it is a 4-plex or a 6-plex that is built, I would like access to the property coming from King Street and not the back alley. The traffic in our back alley is already crazy. Thanks. And the second letter received is from Kirk R. Davis. Regarding the rezoning for multiplex on the block between 6th Avenue and 7th Avenue, as well as between King Street and Queen Street, I am not in favor of more rental units on this block. If this goes ahead, I would request that entrance parking to this 4 or 6-plex be from the King Street side and not the back lane. Thanks for your time.
That's it.
That
Thank
is
you.
all.
The applicant, I think, is the applicant present, and do they wish to make a presentation?
Hello?
James, we can hear you.
Okay, good. I have a couple comments. I don't have a large presentation. I feel like the size of the units, from my experience in the market, are appealing to the young workers coming to town, and there is a need for these. And because they're so small, it doesn't really use a lot that efficiently to have 4 of these smaller units. If I'm doing 4 units only, I would do larger units, which is not kind of exactly what I'd like to see built, and I don't really think that's where the biggest need is in town. So that's the kind of the reason is to use the best use of that lot would be to make a few extra smaller units. That's what I'm kind of asking for. And the reason I thought that was maybe a good place was it's right by Johnny's, it's right across from the arena. There's loads of multi-res on that block already. It's not uncharacteristic with what's already happening on that block. So I thought it was a reasonable ask, and that's kind of the root of where my thought process was on this application. Thank you.
Thank you. Questions from members of council? Councilor Lego.
Yeah. Is there anything not allowing access off of King Street?
Is that a me question?
No,
No, that would be to staff.
yeah, that'll be internal. We'll let you know if we have anything for you, James. Thanks.
Okay.
That's to staff.
You, Mayor Lawrence.
Oh,
Go ahead, Jody. Sorry.
Through you, Mayor Lawrence, I don't know if Matthew Lalonde is here. You might be able to speak to this better, but I mean, the issue of the King Street side is the arena's over there, and parking's at a premium for the arena, so you would lose a few street parking spaces for people who access the arena, and I'm not sure on the topography there it'd be a bit of a grade to get up to King Street, I believe, but it's definitely possible.
Okay, yeah, I would probably prefer to see it off of King Street myself, as you have IFNA on the corner. You also have another multiple unit down that back lane, and then residentials as well. So there's lots of traffic going down. If we have to lose a couple spots, the municipality did build a nice big parking lot right next to the arena. So hopefully that could be used more during the daytime. I believe the house next to it to the west also has a driveway onto King Street, the one next to IFNA. So it's not like it hasn't been done before. We have denied one of these in the past, and the planning tribunal came back and said that these builds are acceptable in our community. So as of this moment, I have no issue with the build going forward. Just that I would like to see the access off of King Street.
Thank you. Council. You'll have to wave your hand a little bit because, thank you. I see Councillor Cassidy and Councillor Timpson. So Councillor Cassidy, go ahead.
Yeah, I do support this development. I understand maybe some of the frustration with the local homeowners with regards to the amount of new folks coming to town and trying to establish a neighborhood. But if we don't have people coming to town and being able to get that first foot in the door, then we don't have any hope of establishing more of a community and helping our community grow either. I think we've seen success with these units. They're from what I understand, and Mr. Southall can correct me if I'm wrong, I think they're all full. All the apartments of this nature I drive by, they seem to be full. There's people there, they're working in town. It's helping the housing crisis we have. It's a small amount, but every little bit helps. If there's some common ground that can be found here, I'm in support of that with regards to where the entrance comes from. I believe there already is an entrance at this off of King Street at this property. It would just be an increase to parking and traffic coming out of that entrance now, I guess, with this development. Maybe there's room to split the difference. So there's not so much vehicles coming out the front and the back, I don't know, but I support this.
Thank you. Councillor Timpson.
Yeah, I agree that the parking should come in off of King Street, and because I recall when the unit behind it was put up and it came to council for approval, they had asked for more parking spots than were permitted, and I did not agree with that because of the concerns of the increased traffic on that laneway. So I would, if it goes ahead, I would prefer to see it coming off of King Street. And I agree, people should be using the parking lot for the rec center more. But I also want to comment a bit more on the, this is going to be temporary. One of the things that we are doing, we are building more and more temporary units that really aren't inviting a person to stay. I mentioned this at one of the last meetings that, there's no balconies. You walk right off the street into the front living room of a place. There's sometimes no storage in these temporary units. There's no bicycle rack. There's no green space, where kids can play, etc. So I'd like to know whether or not, James, you'd be able to make this unit so that it could be permanent, and people are going for smaller units now, small houses and so on. And I think you mentioned in your report, you thought that possibly persons with disabilities and seniors would also be interested in this type of unit. So that means it's got to have amenities for permanence. So can you expand a bit more on what you're planning to do there?
I can tell you what's proposed for sure. The building has, it may not, I don't know how big of a balcony or patio you want, but there is a covered 4-foot paving stone walkway, and each apartment has a covered patio for a barbecue, for your bikes. I mean, a lot of our places, most of the places that I built now are ground level, so they're wheelchair accessible, and they all have a 4-foot covered patio where I do see people with their chairs out there in the summer, and barbecues and tables, and there's bikes there. I don't know what in your mind is a large enough patio, but there is a patio, and there certainly is a sodded lawn with green space there. It's all laid out in that site plan. There is places, there is a grass yard, and there is a covered patio, and I don't know, that's kind of what we're proposing.
Mhm. Okay, thanks.
Councillor Bath.
Yeah, I'm not against the rezoning and the building of the building. I am concerned with parking and traffic in the alley, as Councillor Lego said. With this new build in place, there will be approximately 30 vehicles accessing the alley and heading out either to 7th or to 6th Avenue. And that alley, I don't believe, can handle that kind of traffic. It's already, overwhelmed. I believe the municipality is going to either have to decide whether this alley is suitable and capable of handling that much traffic. As a rule, we don't clear alleys until sort of the last thing we do in town. So now with 30 people driving in and out of there daily, I don't think we can ignore the fact that it will become our responsibility as a municipality. So it's something we need to look at. We're doing this. I'm not arguing against the bill, and I know we need it, but I am certainly concerned about what we're going to do with the traffic in that back lane.
Thank you. Anything further, council? Then I'll go to members of the public. Are there any members of the public here? They're invited to speak to the application. The public can ask questions of clarification or seek background information, speak in support of the application, or speak in opposition to the application. All questions will be directed through the chair. It is requested that you only ask one question at a time. Please identify yourself before you ask your question so that you can be properly recorded in the minutes of the public meeting. Questions from the public? I hear or see none, so we'll move on to the conclusion of the public meeting regarding the zoning bylaw amendment number Z11-2021. If any member of the public wishes to be notified of the decision by council with respect to the application, you must make a written request to the planning coordinator. Notice to appeal the decision of council to the Ontario Land Tribunal must be filed with the planning coordinator no later than 20 days from the date the notice of the decision is circulated. The notice of appeal shall be sent to the attention of the planning coordinator, and it must include the following information: the reasons for the appeal and the fee as prescribed under the Ontario Land Tribunal Act in the amount of $1,100 payable by certified check to the Minister of Finance, Province of Ontario. Only individuals, corporations, or public bodies may appeal the decision of council to the Ontario Land Tribunal. An appeal may not be filed by an unincorporated association or group. A notice of appeal may be filed in the name of an individual who is a member of the association or group. So we're looking at two options, and I will take some direction here from the clerk and the planning coordinator. If there are no opposing comments raised at November 17th statutory public meeting, we have an option. Have the letters that we have received, are they considered as opposing comments?
Through you, Mayor Lawrence, yes, I would say that the letters that we have received are opposing comments.
So then we move on to option two. If there are opposing comments received as of the November 17th, 2021 statutory public meeting that cannot be addressed at the meeting, the council receives the planning report dated November 17th, 2021 respecting zoning bylaw amendment 2021, and the council directs staff to prepare a subsequent planning report for presentation to council at a subsequent council meeting that considers the feedback received at the November 17th, 2021 statutory public meeting. Moved by Councillor Fallon, seconded by Councillor Bath. And although it was clear to me before we vote on this motion that there seemed to be a consensus of approval from council, that approval seemed to be conditional upon access from, at this time, I think fair to say, conditional access from King Street to the units. Is that fair to say that, council? That was the, so I think, I'm not saying the application would be denied if that weren't the case, but I think that's clearly what staff will, one of the things that you must look at in your report back, I assume next month. Councillor Cassidy.
Yeah, just a comment on that. With the opposing comments that were made, and particularly regarding the entrance, would that not be something that would be controlled through the site plan?
Through you, Mayor Lawrence, yes. Councillor Cassidy brings up what I was going to say is that items related to parking and the access to the lot can be controlled through the site plan control application process, which the applicant would be required to go through if the application is approved. So we would have the opportunity to speak with Public Works about, the best place for access for the lot, and even to consider, potential upgrades to the back alley if that's what the Public Works staff feel would be most effective. So this, I would say, can be dealt with at the site plan control stage if council is amenable to that.
Great. Councillor Lego.
Yeah, I also know in the past that we've had issues like this where there was one or two opposing issues, but we had still passed it. I don't know if the clerk can talk to this.
Through Mayor Lawrence, Councillor Lego's recollection is correct. There have been times in the past when matters that could be addressed through site plan control were sort of deferred to that process, and council did approve the zoning bylaw amendment with the understanding that those concerns would be addressed through site plan control. So that is certainly an option. It's really at council's discretion which option it prefers at this point.
All right. So thanks. I could put that to for consent. How would I decide which option they prefer?
Through Mayor Lawrence, if there is, you can do a sort of a straw poll with council if you like to sort of get an idea if there's support for the option number one, and if so, then you would just need to ask Councillor Fenelon as the mover of the motion if he's prepared to withdraw that. So,
given what's been said, council, that the comment about access can be addressed through site plan control. Would you like to put to the mover to remove the motion, and we will consider option one instead? Council, do you wish to do that? Straw poll? 1, 2, 3. I see a majority of councillors saying that. So, Councillor Fallon, will you withdraw the motion? Councillor Fallon, will you withdraw the motion?
Sorry about that. I got one of my other setup here. There has been in the past, we've approved a couple of the buildings on that back lane, and the comments were just about the same, and I don't know what Public Works did about it, but whatever it was, it works for us right now. So I don't see any problems doing with this one here.
So you withdraw the motion that I read out perhaps prematurely, and we'll go back to the first motion, which the difference is the bylaw could be passed tonight in the regular meeting, and the issues addressed in the site plan control mechanism, rather than have to bring it back again before moving on.
Yeah.
So I'm taking you're confirming you'll withdraw the motion.
Mhm.
And we'll put a new motion on the floor then, clerk, that council receives the planning report dated November 17th, 2021, respecting zoning bylaw amendment number Z11, 2021, and further that council authorizes the passing of bylaw number 105-21, being a bylaw to amend bylaw number 85-15, being a comprehensive zoning bylaw for the corporation of the municipality of Sioux as amended, 94 King Street. Moved by Councillor Lego, seconded by Councillor Cassidy. Any further discussion? Councillor Timpson.
I just want clarification that it will be binding if done through the site plan control, the entrance to King Street.
Staff?
Yes, through you, Mayor Lawrence. Yes, Councillor Timpson, it will be binding. Site plan control is registered on title with the property. So it's binding on the current owner of the property as well as any future owners.
Thank you.
Anything further, council? All in favor? Carried. Thank you. That concludes part one, let's say, of our public meeting. We may now move on to item 5 on the statutory public meeting agenda, River Glory First Nation Church, 92 Abram Lake Road, official plan amendment number OP 06-2021 and zoning bylaw amendment number Z12-2021. Applicant Carlo DeRose on behalf of River Glory First Nation Church. Introduction and overview. This public meeting was being held pursuant to section 17, 22, and 34 of the Planning Act, RSO 1990, Chapter 13, as amended by Carlo DeRose on behalf of River Glory First Nation Church for lands legally described as parcel 41094, section DKF, part lot 1, range 4, PL, reserved Drayton parts 1 and 4, 23R 8433, Sioux. The subject property is known locally as 92 Abram Lake Road. The purpose of the applications is to permit the construction of a church on the subject property. The subject property is designated rural residential in the official plan and zoned rural residential in the zoning bylaw. A place of worship is not a permitted use in the designation nor in the zone, and thus an official plan amendment and zoning bylaw amendment is required. A zoning bylaw amendment is also required to permit a reduction in the number of parking spaces provided for the use. Based on a gross floor area of 558 square meters for the proposed church building, a total of 56 regular parking spaces and 3 accessible parking spaces are required.
Sorry, Mayor, can I need
Yes. Yeah,
help to
sorry.
get out? Just stop the video?
Yes. Yeah. If you just stop the video. Yeah, there you go. Perfect.
And mute. Thank you.
Yes.
A total of 52 regular parking spaces and 4 accessible parking spaces are provided. The zoning bylaw amendment would permit the reduction of 4 regular parking spaces from 56 to 52. A place of worship is currently not permitted within the rural residential designation or the RR zone, and therefore the applications are being submitted to permit the proposed use on the subject property. The planning coordinator will confirm how notice was served to advertise this public meeting.
Mayor Lawrence, notice was circulated to internal staff and external bodies by email. Notice was also advertised in the Sioux Bulletin and on the municipal website and social media, as well as sent by mail to property owners within 120 meters of the subject property. It was also sent to various agencies by mail as well. Signs were also posted at the property entrance.
Thank you. The planning coordinator will provide a summary of the application.
Through you, Mayor Lawrence, an application for official plan amendment and zoning bylaw amendment was submitted by Carlo DeRose on behalf of River Glory First Nation Church for the subject property at 92 Abram Lake Road. The applicant is proposing to construct a church building on the subject property. The subject property is located in the rural residential designation of the official plan and is zoned rural residential in the zoning bylaw. A church, which is defined as a place of worship in the zoning bylaw, is not permitted in the rural residential designation nor in the rural residential zone, and so an official plan amendment and zoning bylaw amendment are required to permit the development. The subject property is approximately 0.8 hectares in area and has approximately 67 meters of lot frontage on Abram Lake Road. Abram Lake Road is an open and municipally maintained road, and the section of road that the subject property fronts on is identified as a collector road in the official plan. Currently, the subject property is partially cleared and only a small building exists, which is proposed to be removed. A small man-made pond also exists on the subject property, which is proposed to remain. The proposed church building is to be approximately 558 square meters in floor area. The proposed site plan shows that a total of 52 regular parking spaces and 4 accessible parking spaces are provided. Based on the floor area of 558 square meters for the church, 56 regular parking spaces and 3 barrier-free parking spaces are required. The official plan amendment and zoning bylaw amendment are required to permit the church on the subject property, as well as the reduction in the required parking spaces specified by the zoning bylaw. A site plan control agreement would also be required if the applications were approved. Staff note that the official plan permits institutional uses such as a place of worship in the rural designation, the residential designation, and the institutional designation. Institutional uses are generally permitted in residential areas and are compatible with these types of uses. The official plan also identifies the Drayton area as being characterized by rural, residential, and shoreline development with a limited number of highway commercial and tourist commercial uses present as well. Staff have brought the applications to this meeting with an information report to gather feedback on the applications. Numerous comments have been received regarding the proposed church, most of which are in opposition. Concerns generally fall into the following categories: safety concerns regarding traffic, pedestrians, the S-curve where the subject property is located, and overflow parking, that the church will negatively impact the character of the area, that a church is not compatible with existing nearby development, and concerns about surrounding property values. Staff are recommending that Council accept the information report and direct staff to prepare a subsequent report to consider the comments received prior to and at the statutory public meeting.
Thank you. Yep. Just, and to be clear, this draws a distinction between this part of the public meeting and the previous part in which we had the option to move straight to the bylaw. In this one, it is information only, as the planning coordinator has just summarized. And then a report will be brought back to council, I'm assuming either at the next council meeting or in sometime in the near future. So we'll move on to correspondence from government agencies and municipal staff. Planning coordinator.
Thank you. Through you, Mayor Lawrence, we did receive one comment. It's from Matthew Lalonde, who is the Operations Manager of Public Works and the Acting Manager of Public Works. His comment is as follows. Good afternoon, Kristen. One question that I have for you is, with them wanting to change the zoning, are they going to have to go commercial? Just looking into entrance policies, and it will make a huge difference as the commercial entrance has much stricter rules. After having my meeting with Simon, he brought up some valid points, one being the volume of potential traffic, and with their entrance being between two 90-degree corners may make for a dangerous situation. Also, if there is more than the designated parking, people may try and park on the road, which would be a hazard as the road doesn't have much for shoulders, so it would take up a lane for traffic. This has happened in the past with the Skidoo Club and was an ongoing problem. With Abram already having an industrial lot next to the property, DM Dunphy's, and just off the next corner, Drayton Disposal, this could be a large increase to traffic and cause future potential problems with not only traffic, but the potential speed up of the road breakdown. With the increase of traffic, there has been a lot of concern already brought forward about this. I had another call just a few minutes ago from Len Kelly, who lives on the end of Abram, and he has concern with the potential increase in traffic and the location of the entrance also. He had mentioned as well that he is getting a petition together to get all the residents on Abram to lobby against this. Thank you.
Thank you. I guess we're moving now on to correspondence from members of the public, which I believe is quite lengthy. If you need to take a drink, Kristen, please feel free to do so. This is on your desk, so please proceed.
Thank you, Mayor Lawrence. I appreciate that. I'm going to just apologize in advance if I mess up anyone's name, so my apologies. So the first letter that we received is from Randy Kelly, and it reads as follows. Dear Planning Coordinator, I'd like to add comments regarding the plan to amend the rural residential zoning to permit the place of worship proposed. I do not have concerns re the building of a church, ideally in another location, but I worry about the increased traffic to the area and the proposed location around the S-curve of Abram Lake Road. I'm sure there are other locations that were considered for the applicant, but I would much rather see additional housing created, and it is already zoned for that purpose. Last year, I purchased my home on this road due to the quiet neighborhood and location off the highway / out of town. There are limited lakefront homes for sale in Sioux Lookout, and a major factor of our choice was the privacy of Abram Lake Road. It is a family-friendly neighborhood where people walk their dogs and children walk and ride their bikes. The few downsides of the road are no sidewalks, and it is not well lit in respect to streetlights. When people are walking or biking, I have to drive on the other side of the road or slow to a stop to let other vehicles or people pass. I also find the S-curve to be a dangerous section due to the increased likelihood of sliding in the winter and tight turns where you're not in full view of oncoming vehicles or people walking. I have seen cars in the ditch in that area and the curve to the highway. With that being said, the pros outweigh the cons, but a con that I did not consider was a proposed church that could impact my home's value. It is hard to imagine 56 cars parking at that location, and most people forget that churches are not just open on Sunday. There will be multiple services throughout the week, weddings, funerals, and other events held. Due to the increased foot and vehicle traffic in the area, should this be approved, will there be sidewalks and streetlights installed on all of Abram or just on the section leading to the church? I'm not able to attend tomorrow's meeting as I will be traveling, so I request that you notify me of the decision by the municipality. Sincerely, Randy Kelly. The next letter was received from Luke and Michelle Bolin. Again, apologies. Kristen, please see our concerns for application for proposed construction on 92 Abram Lake Road listed below. We are not in favor of this application. Our concerns for proposed construction on 92 Abram Lake Road include it changes the fabric of the neighborhood, rural residential dwellings, and currently there is substantial foot traffic ranging from children to seniors, including pets. The additional vehicle traffic will impact the area especially on weekends as a result of weddings or other events. Abram Lake Road is not able to accommodate traffic parking along the shoulder safely, and with increased attendance to larger events, there will be limited options for parking. If allowed to park along the shoulder, this will cause a serious risk to the walking and driving travelers and rural homeowners. Why are the number of spaces required for this building reduced to 56 when based on the size, it should be easily 60 parking spaces? And in addition, due to its location, most participants will be required to travel by car, so the estimated parking spots is grossly underestimated, as there will be limited, if any, for traffic to attend services held here. Abram Lake Road is a collector road and not designed to facilitate a proposed 56 space parking area with overflow on the road on 2 consecutive sharp corners with large industrial equipment entering and exiting both ends. A collector road or distributor road is a low to moderate capacity road which serves to move traffic from local streets to arterial roads. Unlike arterials, collector roads are designed to provide access to residential properties. Abram Lake Road would be down to 1 lane where overflow parks on the road. Ditches have severe drop for people getting in and out of vehicle. This is a rural neighborhood, and the impacts of changing the zoning to accommodate this type of building will negatively impact the property values of surrounding homes. Is the town planning substantial upgrades to offset the additional traffic that will collect on the weekends, and will there be sidewalks added? Winter conditions on this road, especially this corner, make it one of the most dangerous corners in our community. The additional traffic into this area is a significant safety concern for all the homeowners that use this road currently. Rezoning for this type of building when there are other suitable properties located in the municipality does not make sense. Secure land within the town core, there are ample options. This is not the place for this building. Current commercial Dunphy and Pizzio have no impact due to minimal workforce, and their parked vehicles do not overflow onto Abram Lake Road. Thank you. The next letter received was from Debbie Whalen. Deborah and Robert Whalen. Abram Lake Road has a single lane in each direction with limited traffic volumes. The very reason our family moved to our present location on the road was to be in a relatively quiet residential area with limited traffic. Both my husband and I walk daily on this road, as do many other seniors living along it. Numerous residents with young children in strollers and or pets on leashes walk or bike along this residential street. Over a number of years, the volume of traffic has been increasing as development of the properties has occurred. It has become more hazardous to traverse this road as the shoulder space is often narrowed when vehicles are passing in both directions. Pedestrians have to step to the edge of the shoulder, almost into the ditch at times. A development of the proposed magnitude with increased vehicular traffic of up to 56 cars traveling on one of the most dangerous corners in town will exponentially increase this hazard. Numerous vehicles have slid off this blind corner into the ditch or snowbank every fall/winter. The entrance to Abram Lake Road from Highway 72 has no left turning lane, and at present, traffic is often backed up along the highway where posted speed limit has been increased. As well, the right turn lane off Highway 72 onto the Abram Lake Road is extremely sharp, with a potential increase of 50+ cars turning off and onto the single lane and no passing lane for traffic proceeding toward town. The access/exit to Highway 72 is a definite safety issue with resultant congestion of traffic, creating an unsafe situation. With the Skidoo Clubhouse and property situated adjacent to the proposed site of a 558 square meter building and 56 car parking area, the potential for further safety issues will be created. Thank you for consideration of our objections. With respect, we are against the non-residential development at 92 Abram Lake Road. The next letter received is from Andrew and Nicole Mackey. To all members of Town Council and Planning, we are writing to you in regards to the application to amend the Town Planning and Zoning bylaw for the property at 92 Abram Lake Road. As residents of the neighborhood, we have the following concerns. 1, safety. The subject property is sitting on 2 blind corners. With the proposed addition of 52 parking spaces, this creates a safety issue with the flow of traffic on an already busy dead-end road. This being a residential area, there are an abundant number of walkers, cyclists, joggers, and children on their way to the Umphreyville Trail along Highway 72 to enjoy the walking path. The added traffic of such a building poses more risk to anyone using the right-of-way. Number 2, lack of residential properties. In a town with exponential growth and a housing crisis, why are we changing the zoning of residential lots in desirable neighborhoods? Number 3, lot size. We would like to know how the applicant intends to construct the proposed 558 square meter building with 52 parking spaces on a lot that size and still meet all other building requirements. Without town services, will a drilled well and septic system be able to provide the capacity of such a large building? Number 4, property value. While the proposed building is currently a place of worship, what is to say that the building could not be repurposed into something that will negatively affect property values of all homeowners in the neighborhood? Number 5, other available properties appropriately zoned. Has the applicant exhausted all other options? There must be lots available that are not within desirable residential neighborhoods. An example would be the lot east of Home Hardware on Alcona Drive. A lot of this size is well suited for the proposed building and parking. It would also be serviceable by town sewer and water. Thank you for your consideration with our concerns on the matter. The next letter received is from Mr. Alan Howie. I'm sending these written concerns regarding the proposed official plan amendment OPO 021 zoning bylaw amendment Z12 2021 River Glory First Nation Church 92 Abram Lake Road. I oppose the suggested amendment. The subject property is designated rural residential in the official plan and zoned rural residential in the zoning bylaw. A place of worship is not a permitted use in the designation nor in the zone. The development should not be allowed to proceed. I have moved forward with the purchase of property on Abram Lake Road to live in the rural residential area away from large traffic congestion and commercial properties or planned uses on property that do not fit the rural residential designation. This building will significantly change the surroundings of this neighborhood in a negative way. My concerns are as follows. Negative effects on the groundwater table when a facility requires water flow for a minimum of 56 people based on parking spaces being requested, which could cause water flow issues for area residences' existing wells. The proponents of the development must have done research on the amount of people who would attend, as they have asked for a specific amount of parking spaces, which is less than the required number of spaces based on the gross floor size of the building. Heavy drain on underground water systems can ruin neighboring properties' abilities to obtain water from existing wells. At minimum, an underground water supply study should be undertaken to ensure no negative effect. Traffic congestion on a rural residential road can have negative effects on existing properties on the road. Those out for a walk, young children riding bicycles, and other uses are heavily impacted by large gatherings with many vehicle movements. This creates a safety concern. Churches and other proposed developments such as these are not only used once per week on Sundays as done in the early years. Churches are buildings that see traffic many times through the week for services, special events, and other gatherings. Effects to local existing properties would be ongoing. Safety concerns with pedestrians would also be ongoing. No matter how the design for the property is created, there will be congestion on the road. If people park in the on-site parking area, there will be traffic congestion as they come and go on Abram Lake Road. Reality shows us that people park in the closest location to access doors. People park on the streets at a variety of locations in our community instead of on-site parking spots. Roads in the rural area do not have the width, sidewalks, and crosswalks. Therefore, off-site parking will create narrowing of the street, causing potential delay for emergency equipment such as ambulance, police, and fire to service all properties on Abram Lake Road. The entrance from and to Abram Lake Road off Highway 72 is not designed for mass departures or arrivals of traffic. Abram Lake Road at the highway is narrow and located on a bend, which minimizes vehicle visibility for traffic northbound on Highway 72. Large amounts of traffic would be backed up on both roads, visibility reduced. A high probability of an accident would exist. The large traffic flows would negatively affect existing residents on their regular travels that exist in a rural residential zoning area. There is no need to negatively affect people. Large developments for large gatherings or commercial use in an established residential area have negative effects on existing properties in close proximity. Sightlines from a person's property are important. You cannot control what your neighbor does on their property, but you can move to a location that does not permit developments other than rural residential zoning opportunities. The proposed development will alter the existing neighborhood negatively. A residential property would be negatively affected with lower resale value when placed beside a commercial building built for large public gatherings. The size of the building at 558 square meters is approximately 6,000 square feet. This is 3 times the size of an average home. The ability for the municipality of Sioux Lookout to provide adequate fire protection for such a large building in this rural area, I believe is a concern. Fire in a rural area can spread quickly to other properties and the heavily forested area. There are no water hydrants on Abram Lake Road. The closest single line would come from Highway 72 area with no backup of municipal water supply from a separate water line. The surrounding area to this property already contains some historically approved properties which would not fit the rural residential property use. These properties have been approved long before improved planning programs were in place to prevent property use conflicts. The existing properties are not an argument to approve another. The recycle depot property and the construction company property see very minimal traffic. They are not properties/businesses that have public access to the location as part of their business. Traffic patterns or regular use of the area are not affected by the existing properties. Both sites are older buildings which could be altered back to uses fitting the rural residential designation as they have smaller buildings on them. The creation of a new 558 square meter building would be a significant investment of building in the area. The use would be approved for any future use of the property, and the legacy of previous decisions to allow conflicting use to the RR zoning has no chance to ever be corrected back to meet the desire of the master plan. The municipality of Sioux Lookout has not spent significant time and money for proper planning in our community to go against the master plan they have created. There's a number of available properties within the municipality of Sioux Lookout which would allow this type of development. The development of a church in a community can be important to many current and future residents. I am not the person to say build it closer to the main population to assist with ease of travel to the property. Those are specific decisions the proponents of the development are to review. As a resident of the area who will pay taxes for property on Abram Lake Road, I do not see this type of development as a positive development in our community on Abram Lake Road. The next comments received are from Andrew Jewell and Stephanie Bandola. Hi, Kristen. As property owners on Abram Lake Road, we have the following concerns regarding the application to amend both the OP and zoning bylaw to accommodate the establishment of a place of worship at 92 Abram Lake Road, and are opposed to such a development. 1. A proposed development of this magnitude within an RR zoning/designation should require a traffic impact study completed by a qualified engineering firm to confirm if the irregular geometry of Abram Lake Road at this location can accommodate the increase in traffic volume and the frequency of vehicles egress from the property in a safe and sufficient manner. Number 2, there is a municipal culvert installed under Abram Lake Road directly north of the proposed entrance and parking lot for this proposed development, which directs collected drainage southwest through the property. As presented, the proposed parking area obstructs this drainage course. Therefore, it can be assumed that there hasn't been any investigation as to the potential adverse impacts a development of this magnitude would have on local area drainage. And as the majority of all drainage directed from Abram Lake Road and the surrounding properties in this area are directed through our property to Abram Lake, we have concerns with potential negative impacts to existing drainage courses and additional drainage volumes from this development if it were permitted. Number 3, in an institutional zone where a place of worship would be a permitted use, the minimum lot area of a subject property on private services is designated as 10,000 square meters. This property is only 8,000 square meters, so it also does not meet the minimum area designated for such use. Number 4, there was a past issue with the parking of vehicles on Abram Lake Road adjacent to the Snowmobile Clubhouse, which resulted in a no parking designation on the east side of Abram Lake Road across from the Snowmobile Club. Allowing a development of this magnitude with an exception to the minimum required parking spaces has the potential to reintroduce a vehicle parking issue on Abram Lake Road. Number 5, has the septic field size, as depicted on the site plan, been calculated to handle sewage flows based on the number of seats in the development as per the Ontario Building Code? Number 6, the accessible parking spot widths portrayed on the site plan do not reflect the designated width presented in the zoning bylaw of 3.7 meters. Thank you. The next letter was received from Carol Wood. Re-amendment to zoning of 92 Abram Lake Road. Please do not rezone or permit a bylaw amendment to this residential property. This is a neighborhood where we live, run, walk our children and pets, ride our bikes, and we already navigate this S-curve on which the property is situated with great care to stay out of the way of moving vehicles. When there are neighboring properties that are non-residential, they are tucked away off the main road and do not generate any additional traffic. Allowing non-residential uses is a dangerous precedent. Other like uses nearby, for example, Dunphy's, the Skidoo Club, and the Recycling Depot, are pre-existing and making more allowances invites more variance, ultimately changing the character of the neighborhood. In addition, the proposed plans will change the appearance to one that does not fit with a residential area. The construction of a prefab steel church and required parking spaces will be unsightly and necessitate the destruction of the entire property. This includes all of the vegetation and the natural wetland on that property that is teeming with frogs every spring. I am emphatically opposed to this potential change as it will have dire effects on the existing residential neighborhood. No one has chosen to live in this area with the knowledge or expectation that anything but houses would be built along Abram Lake Road. I trust that yourself as planning coordinator, along with mayor and council, will reject this application on the basis of its inappropriate location. The next letter received is from Conway Brown. Three River Glory First Nation Church application for 92 Abram Lake Road. As a taxpayer of Sioux Lookout and a resident of Evergreen Drive who uses Abram Lake Road daily, I was concerned when I read about the application to rezone the rural residential lot to allow a church to be constructed at 92 Abram Lake Road. The property at 92 Abram Lake Road should not be utilized for any building except a residential property. It has neither the size, location, nor capacity to meet the needs of a community church. 92 Abram Lake Road is a small piece of property located on a dangerous S-turn curve. The street has a narrow gravel shoulder that has no space for parking and negotiating past pedestrians. Every year during the winter months, I witnessed multiple vehicles in the ditch because drivers could not navigate the turn in slippery conditions. The S-turn is also dangerous for pedestrians due to the blind turns and trees blocking visibility, as well as the traffic from the residential properties, the recycling depot, and the Dunphy equipment storage property. There's also no alternate route to access residences on the side streets of Abram Lake Road if there is a vehicle accident or roadway congestion. The assumption that the small lot will adequately house a church and parking area for 56 vehicles is absurd. During a Sunday service or weekly meetings, funerals, special events, etc., the roadway will be choked with vehicles. Having a church located outside of the central community area is also a barrier for community members that may have lower incomes or without access to a personal vehicle. It will cost individuals at least $20 each way for a taxi to attend services, as it's too far to walk. I ask that this request to rezone the property be denied on behalf of the potential church members and the residents and pedestrians who travel on this road daily. Thank you. The next letter received is from Irene Dubé. Good morning. I'm a resident out on the area of Abram Lake Road and found out yesterday about the proposed development of a church and large parking lot in this area. I have to voice my concerns as a resident here, and I really hope this development is halted. I love walking down Abram Lake Road. However, with already busier traffic these days and a lot of dogs off leash, it's becoming harder and harder to enjoy a peaceful and safe walk. The S-curve, right where this development is proposed, is one of the scariest corners in town. With a lot of pedestrian traffic and blind spots, there have been many near misses, both as me as a driver and me as a pedestrian. I see this happen at least a few times a week year-round. It's just an accident waiting to happen. Considering the large number of walkers on this road and children walking to friends' houses and dogs off leashes, it really is an area that should have a sidewalk and much better lighting. What this area does not need, a busy parking lot and high traffic church or any kind of business going there. There are many other more appropriate lots in town for this development, and I really hope this development is halted right now. The next letter received is from Iris Wujans and Magdi Hussain. Dear Kristen, we are residents of Abram Lake Road and would like to express our concerns regarding the application for official plan amendment and zoning bylaw amendment for the property 92 Abram Lake Road. Abram Lake Road is a quiet residential street where everyday residents, and maybe other people as well, walk with their children and pets. The proposed development includes a rather large parking lot for 56 cars, and the nature of the proposed use will cause a lot of traffic on weekends and possibly weekday evenings. Several times a week, residents will be exposed to more traffic at one time than they experience now in a 24-hour period. We think this is too much traffic for a small residential road. In addition, the property is located at the most dangerous corner of the road. Visibility is poor there, and cars often slide off the road in winter. Abram Lake Road has a single lane in each direction. In and outcoming traffic from the corner lot with as many as 56 cars will become a safety issue for pedestrians in general and for residents accessing Highway 72. Exiting onto 72 will be very congested with a single lane, one stop sign, and potentially over 50 cars leaving at one time. And there is no turning lane on the highway to enter Abram Lake Road, and traffic will back up along Highway 72 as well. We respectfully are against the non-residential development at number 92. Thank you for taking our objection into consideration. The next letter was received from Janelle Jenge and Lindsay Gould. Good day. I just read the application for a place of worship at 92 Abram Lake Road. I live on this road and have for over 2 years. Like many people who live in rural Sioux Lookout, we wanted to live outside of town to avoid some of the things that come with living in town. Having a church on our road would create more traffic on our streets where our children play. There are no sidewalks, minimal side road for walks, and no streetlights. This is one of the major concerns that I can see. In addition, as we know, a place of worship should have their doors open to everyone 24/7, meaning more traffic throughout the day and night on our streets. During times of grief, a continuous place for families to gather and ongoing traffic. As a parent and resident, I am very concerned about this and respectfully do not agree with this amendment. As a paying taxpayer of this town, I hope this is a sufficient reason why we wish not to go ahead with this. The next letter is received from Joan, John, and Danielle Dykes. Mayor, Council, and Planning Coordinator Kristen Bartman. I wish to object to the proposed official plan amendment for 92 Abram Lake Road. The proposed 56-car parking lot on this property will create significant traffic issues. The entrance to this proposed parking lot sits in the middle of one of the most dangerous stretches of road in Sioux Lookout. Cars entering the S-curve will not be able to see vehicles exiting the parking lot until they are well into the curve. This is a spot where numerous cars hit the ditch each winter. Drivers of cars exiting the parking lot will find it almost impossible to view cars that are traveling down Abram towards Highway 72. Any cars parked on the road will entirely block one lane of traffic and further reduce sight lines on this narrow residential road. Not only will this create an extremely dangerous situation, it also means that the many pedestrians and cyclists who use this road daily will have no choice but to walk almost in the middle of the road. You use the existing 2 industrial sites as a justification for changing the zoning of this property. Surely this town needs more residential land, not industrial land. I also wish to point out that neither of these existing industrial sites is visible from the road, and neither of these properties has more than a handful of cars visiting each day, certainly not 56 cars streaming into their lots at one time. I also take exception to the description of the pond on that property as man-made. I'm quite familiar with that pond. When the previous owners had that property, my daughter was a frequent visitor to that spot to visit the ducks that return there year after year to nest, and to see the hundreds, if not thousands, of boreal chorus frogs that make that spot their home. I worry that calling it man-made might negate any environmental or habitat-related concerns and provide easy justification for, should it be necessary, filling it in to accommodate the parking lot or septic field. My other reasons for protesting this proposed zoning amendment change are deeply personal. My home sits directly across from this property. Should this facility and its 56-car parking lot proceed, it will have a significant detrimental impact on my property, my home, and my family. The headlights of every car that pulls out of that lot will sweep across the windows, including the windows of the master bedroom of our home. Every time someone uses a key fob to unlock or lock their car door, the resulting horn, beep, chirp will sound like it has happened right in our front yard. Every voice, especially in the evening, will sound like it is coming directly from our front yard. Any lights installed in that parking lot will shine directly into our windows at night. We love where we live. We especially appreciate the quiet and serenity of this area. By approving this zoning change, you will be robbing us of one of the most pleasurable aspects of living in a rural residential area. The next letter received is from Josh Hopko. Abram Lake Road is a quiet, calm road and is a great rural residential area to live. Many people walk their children and pets on the road confidently, knowing that it is a low traffic area, which is one of the many reasons why we moved out here. Safety on Abram Lake Road is a huge concern when you add a high volume entrance/exit between the already dangerous S-turn at the beginning of the road. This area is known to ditch multiple vehicles a year, and adding 50+ vehicles would increase the likelihood of more accidents. That being said, there are no sidewalks for pedestrians to go to if there is a surge in traffic of 50+ vehicles leaving or going to 92 Abram Lake Road. My wife and I both work on call, as well as many other residents on Abram Lake Road. Congestion of 50 vehicles will significantly reduce our response time, which will result in delayed patient care in urgent situations. As a taxpayer on Abram Lake Road, it does not seem reasonable to rezone existing land for a non-tax revenue building, especially when it will cause more traffic on the road, which will lead to more required road maintenance. The rural residential bylaws were put in place to protect rural residential areas like Abram Lake Road. Rezoning 92 Abram Lake Road will defeat the purpose of the Planning Committee's original outlook for Abram Lake Road. For these reasons, I believe there should not be a zoning bylaw amendment for 92 Abram Lake Road. Thank you for taking our objection into consideration. The next letter was received from Justin and Jamie Poling. Dear Mayor, Councilors, and Kristen, we are writing in regards to the proposed rezoning of the lot near the beginning of Abram Lake Road for the purpose of construction of a church, amendments OPO 621 and Z 12 2021. We live on Abram Lake Road and have a number of concerns with the proposed amendments and oppose them. The lot is located on a rather dangerous double corner right at the beginning of the road. The road in this area is quite narrow, especially in the wintertime, and a very significant increase in traffic in this area is dangerous for pedestrians, children, and dogs in the area, all of which are components of our family. The area has no sidewalks, no easements, and is unlit. Furthermore, since we have lived on the road, there have been at least 5 cars in the ditch in this area annually. A substantial increase in traffic in this area poses a substantial risk to motorists, pedestrians, and pets. Moving forward, our young children will be biking and walking through this area on the way to play with friends and into town. We have significant concerns about the safety of profoundly increasing traffic on this corner as it pertains to this. There is nowhere else available in the area for overflow parking in the event that there were funerals, weddings, etc., or even a crowded service, which would inevitably lead to parking on the road, further narrowing it. The road is not currently wide enough for additional cars to be parked on, especially not near a dangerous corner, and especially not during winter months when snowbanks are present. There are multiple workers who serve on-call and emergency services living on our road. The proposed parking lot would be located very near the entrance of the road, leading to a significant issue passing by this area in the event that church services or events are letting out, as 50 or more cars clearly would back up the road right into the parking lot and then some, particularly as there is a blind corner left of Abram Lake Road if exiting and obviously no dedicated turning lane in this area. The lot is presently zoned as a residential lot. There are alternative areas with available land in town which would be much better suited to rezoning or potentially are already appropriately zoned and would have better road infrastructure, not to mention potential access to town sewer and water set up for the construction of a church. In the absence of a very compelling reason to rezone this lot, we feel that the current bylaws are structured as is for a reason and should be respected, especially given the significant property taxes are already paid by residents of this road. Thank you very much for considering our concerns and opposition pertaining to the potential rezoning and construction of a church near the beginning of Abram Lake Road. We truly feel that with substantially increased traffic in this area, a safety risk is posed to residents, visitors, and potential worshipers on this dangerous corner, and that the area is ill-suited for construction of a church, especially given potential alternative sites much better suited to rezoning or already appropriately zoned. The next letter received is from Karen Perron. Good afternoon. Thank you for offering the opportunity to forward comments about the application as named above. Following below are my concerns related to the application for amendments to permit the construction of a church on 92 Abram Lake Road that is currently zoned rural residential. Abram Lake Road has single lane traffic in both directions, and in the location around lot 92 Abram Lake Road, there's a significant S-curve. Current traffic movement on this road and in this particular area is already an issue, especially in the winter months when snow-covered and icy conditions prevail, and numerous vehicles fall prey to the deep ditches on either side of the road. This road is also a busy school bus route, and as such, the narrow lanes with bus traffic must be considered to ensure the safety of children and their families when waiting for pickups and when exiting for home. Access onto Abram Lake Road and exiting from Abram Lake Road from and to Highway 72 has the real potential of creating a major safety issue as a result of poor sight lines in either direction. The absence of street lighting at the intersection and the lack of traffic lights on the highway would compound to these concerns due to the likely potential of increased vehicle traffic. If the proposed build was to proceed, all of these road concerns would further be exacerbated. Pedestrians, including families with young children, runners, cyclists, etc., and often with pets accompanying them, do not have the option to walk on a sidewalk or on road shoulders as neither are available. There is no street lighting on the entire stretch of the road. Potential overflow parking on the road and the additional traffic would pose an increased hazard to pedestrians and pets. Regarding the lot size to accommodate the proposed 558 square meter building, 6,000 square feet, as indicated in the notice of complete application, has this been appropriately considered in light of the size of a lot required to host a 6,000 square foot structure? Has it been determined that an appropriately sized septic field and possible mantle would be able to be built within the lot and that it would meet the health unit requirements? Have the calculations regarding the sizing for the area needed to facilitate parking for all vehicles been completed? If so, how many vehicles can be accommodated on the lot? Will a 91 meter length parking lot as proposed in the application fit along any dimension of the requested lot? Designated parking spaces would have to be designed with a paved parking area, including parking line delineations. It is doubtful that a gravel surface would accommodate the required number of stalls for even a reduction of parking spaces from 56 to 52. Property values for the current rural residential property owners on Abram Lake Road is of concern. We have a relatively quiet rural residential area and wish it to remain as is. I respectfully submit my concerns for your consideration and request that this application be denied. The next letter received is from Kayla Beck and Dylan Grant. Dear Mr. Lawrence, council members, and Kristen, we are writing in regards to the proposed amendments OPO 6-2021, Z 12-2021 to build a church on 92 Abram Lake Road. I grew up on Abram Lake Road and our family camp is still down that road, Loon Lake Road. We go down the road regularly to visit family and friends down this road. We oppose the construction of River Glory First Nation Church for the following reasons. Abram Lake Road currently poses safety concerns due to the fact that there are no curbs, sidewalks, and a lack of streetlights. The S corner where 92 Abram Lake Road is situated will be a safety concern for pedestrians and vehicles. It is very dark and often vehicles end up along the ditch of 92 Abram Lake Road. Every winter this is an issue. The construction of this church would increase traffic flow in an already dangerous area. I understand that they are planning for 56 parking spaces for this church. We are concerned that the overflow of vehicles will end up on one or both sides of the already narrow Abram Lake Road, causing even further risks for accidents to pedestrians and vehicles. There is also a concern that many families attend with children. It is not unusual to see children playing outside on church grounds. This church will be on two corners and can pose children at risk of harm in such close proximity to the road. Current bylaws don't permit construction of a church on rural land, such as 92 Abram Lake Road. By allowing this, it would set precedents for future requests. These bylaws exist for a reason and should be followed. There are other areas in town or Hudson that would be a great suit for the church to be safely built, or that are properly zoned for the church to be built. As Sioux lookouters who walk, drive, and spend a lot of time down Abram Lake Road, thank you for seriously considering our opposition and concerns. The next letter is received from Len Kelly. This is a submission to council around strong objections to the non-residential development at 92 Abram Lake Road. Abram Lake Road is a relatively quiet residential street with limited traffic, where people walk with their children and pets on a daily basis. The proposed development includes parking for 56 cars. This is too much traffic for such a small residential road. Residents will be exposed to more traffic at one time than they experience in a 24-hour period. This development will adversely affect our access for both road and pedestrian travel. Abram Lake Road has a single lane in each direction, and allowing a non-residential organization with as many as 56 cars to attend functions at the corner at the beginning of the road is unsafe. It is also planned at the most dangerous corner on the road with poor visibility, where cars often slide off the road in winter. Access to Highway 72 will become a safety issue. There is no turning lane on 72 to enter Abram Lake Road. Traffic will back up onto the highway. Also, exiting onto 72 will be very congested with a single lane, one stop sign, and potentially over 50 cars leaving at one time. We respectfully are against the non-residential development at number 92. Thank you for taking our major objection into consideration. The next letter was received from Michael and Marlene Booz. Dear Ms. Bartman, we are writing to once again oppose changes or amendments to the current RR zoning of 92 Abram Lake Road. We are opposed to the development of the property beyond its intended use as a rural residential site. As we live directly across the road from 92 Abram Lake Road, we would be significantly impacted by the proposed development of the property. We sold our house in town and moved to our current location on Abram Lake Road 17 years ago to enjoy the many benefits of living on the outskirts of town. Our current home is our sanctuary, where we can appreciate the relative quiet in the evenings on both weekdays and weekends. We often sit on our front porch to enjoy the stars and the sounds of nature, particularly during the spring and summer seasons. With the proposed development, the view from our front porch will be transformed from a forested lot to a clear-cut section of land with a huge parking lot. We anticipate the parking lot will be illuminated in the evenings and most likely all night long. We will be subjected to the noise of constant traffic in the evenings, and weekends when events take place at the proposed church site, perhaps even late into the night. We are very concerned that these changes will disrupt our routines and affect our quality of life. We are quite surprised that the construction of a church is under consideration at this particular location, given the traffic safety issues that already exist on Abram Lake Road. We are witnesses to ongoing accidents on the S-curve section of Abram Lake Road, where on at least one occasion each year, someone drives off the road and into the ditch. An increase in traffic will result in a bottleneck of vehicles in the S-curve section of Abram Lake Road, creating a hazardous situation for everyone, including both church members and families with small children walking on the road. We are also very concerned about further congestion of traffic in the area when church events attract a larger than usual crowd, and people must resort to parking on the road as the parking lot exceeds capacity. We can't imagine how people will be able to safely navigate the road with vehicles parked on the shoulder and pedestrians walking past with their families. The constant movement of vehicles as they pass by our home will also become a hazard to our family as we exit our driveway by vehicle or went out for an evening walk. When we moved to Abram Lake Road, we were quite aware of the businesses already operating very close to our home. The addition of a third development near our home is simply unreasonable and unsafe, as it will cause even more issues with regard to noise and traffic in an area where the road was never designed to handle the movement of a large number of vehicles at any one time. Although we certainly sympathize with those who are trying to find a suitable site for their church, for reasons expressed in this letter, we oppose the development of 92 Abram Lake Road for any purpose beyond rural residential development. We appreciate the opportunity for our concerns to be heard on this very important issue. The next letter received is from Michael Bouvet. To whom it may concern, I was recently made aware of a plan to rezone 92 Abram Lake Road to allow for a church. This isn't in the best interest of the residents in the area, as traffic congestion is already a huge issue. The S-curve is already a hazard. Adding additional traffic will only add more risk to drivers and pedestrians. I have no issues with the proposed facility. However, I strongly feel that this area isn't suitable. 92 Abram Lake Road should stay a residential lot. The next letter was received from Nelson Rosiak from Rosiak Carpentry. Mayor and all council members of the Municipality of Sioux look out. Rosiak Carpentry Limited is a locally owned construction company in operation for the last 5 years, responsible for numerous big projects, including putting the truss roof system on the local fire hall, building Keewatin-Askey engineering firm's office building, as well as building custom homes. We are currently actively seeking new ways to expand our business in larger scale projects, such as a subdivision development, leading to the next point. This past summer, we purchased 62 Drayton Road, pins 42042-0701 and 42042-0702, which consists of 14.5 acres of developable land that ranges from Drayton Road to Abram Lake Road. Before purchasing this property, we did our due diligence to make sure our plans for this would be acceptable. We have since had a new boundary survey done by Rugged Geomatics out of Kenora at a cost of $10,983.60. Keewatin-Askey Engineering is currently in the process of creating a development plan for us to present to the Municipality of Sioux Lookout. This property, being 14.5 acres, can potentially create 29.5 acre lots. Each of these 29 lots would be, with a spec home, would be tied into town sewer and water, as the connection is directly across the road at the entrance to Autumnwood Estates. Furthermore, this would also create tax income for the municipality. However, this rezoning bylaw amendment will directly affect our plans for this development plan. This is due to having the ability to potentially put 29 town service lots with houses. We had planned to have 2 entrances and exits. One of these would be off of Drayton Road, with the other to be the connecting currently dirt road off of Abram Lake Road. We believe and feel the need to strongly express that the S-turn, or double-blind corner, is not going to be able to sustain the traffic from our development plans, as well as a church that wants to put the entrance to a parking lot in the middle of this S-turn. Our goal is to create a safe neighborhood with affordable and energy-efficient housing. Therefore, we need the second entrance to prevent any congestion of traffic. In saying that, please see the attached survey/sketch of our rough plans. We also believe that there are many other commercial locations that are better suited for a church rather than in a residential neighborhood that has a high number of young families that enjoy walking and riding bikes up and down the road. Not to mention the numerous hospital staff that live down there that are frequently on call and need to get to hospital in a hurry. Please feel free to contact me with any questions or concerns regarding this amendment. The next letter was received from Roger and Ann Saltel. Dear Ms. Bartman, we oppose the proposed building on 92 Abram Lake Road. Abram Lake Road has a terrible S-curve where the proposed church and parking lot is to be constructed. At the best of times, that corner is treacherous, and with the proposed parking, it will be downright dangerous. It baffles us why a church is being built in a rural area. The faithful of the church will all need to drive to the services. It is my understanding that the pond does have species of wildlife that reside in or near the pond. Is this pond to be filled in? Perhaps further study needs to happen re the pond's fate. The next letter was received from Sharon Madden. Opposition to application for non-residential use of 92 Abram Lake Road. The proposed zoning change to institutional zone is not in keeping with the rural residential designation of the many properties along Abram Lake Road and the properties on Evergreen Drive, Forest Drive, and Loon Lake Road who access their homes from Abram Lake Road. This is residential road with lots of local foot traffic. People use it for exercise and to walk children and pets. There are safety and traffic concerns. The Abram Lake Road entry to the proposed parking will be unsafe. It is on an S-curve with 90-degree turns near the approaches from both the west and east. Turning onto Abram Lake Road from Highway 72 will also be unsafe, as there is no turning lane when approaching from the south. Exiting onto Highway 72 will also become an issue, with potentially 50 vehicles leaving at one time, with only a single lane and no left turn lane. There is no safe place to park overflow vehicles along the roadway. The existing Abram Lake Road is the successor of the original roadway when this area was unorganized, not designated in the municipal plan. Abram Lake Road does not meet municipal standards, no proper shoulders, ditching. It will inevitably be subject to overflow parking at times if this proposal goes through, despite the stated 55 parking spaces. The planning report inadequately represented the specifics of adjacent land use when recommending approval and stating that rezoning was compatible with the adjacent properties. There are residential properties immediately across the street from 92 Abram Lake Road. The report does not account for the adjacent industrial use to the west having predated rural residential designation. It is my understanding that this was initially an unorganized area and it would have been grandfathered as industrial at the time of the remaining rural residential zoning. The zoning of the property to the east, Recycling Depot, did not allow comment from Abram Lake property owners. This is also a request to receive notification of the decision of the municipality in respect to these applications. The next letter was received from Simon Pete. OP Amendment OPO 6/2021 and Zoning Bylaw Amendment Z 12/2021, River Glory First Nation Church, Abram Lake Road. The above applications on Abram Lake Road to rezone a residential lot to allow the construction and operation of a new church should not be approved because vehicular traffic to and from a new church at this location is unacceptable driving hazard. To be clear, I do not oppose a church. I oppose a church at the applicant's chosen location. More specifically, increased traffic into and from a new church entrance between the two 90-degree curves on Abram will result in an unacceptable driving hazard. I drive Abram daily, and I can't think of a worse location for a new entrance and increased traffic. Approximately 60 residential and other properties are served by Abram Lake Road, and additional church traffic will roughly double traffic between the two curves when the church is in session. I have spoken to approximately a dozen of these property owners about the proposed church, many of who have spoken to many others, and I have not encountered anyone who has said they think a new church between the two 90s on Abram is a good idea. Currently, a high number of traffic accidents on Abram already occur at this location. Granted, most of these accidents are cars ending up in the ditches, but the high frequency of ditched cars at this location means the road is difficult to navigate and drivers have lost control. As you know, Abram Lake Road has not been constructed to municipal road standards. It has substandard geometrics, driving surface, and shoulder widths, as well as poor sight distances, which, along with increased traffic, will no doubt increase the number of driving accidents. The sight distances between drivers on Abram rounding either of the two 90-degree curves and a driver exiting the proposed parking lot are about 55 meters. This means that 2 and possibly 3 drivers approaching each other will have about 4 seconds to react to each other from first view to impact. Limited reaction time is further compounded by traffic into and out of the other 2 industrial and 1 residential entrances on the curves. The church will add significant pulse traffic on Abram Lake Road, particularly on weekend days when the proposed church will be in session. Abram already has high pulse traffic flows and congestion during weekend events at the neighboring Ojibwe Power Toboggan Club, so much so that no parking signs have had to be installed along Abram. This was because when vehicles are parked on the narrow shoulders, most of the vehicle is on the narrow driving lane, thus blocking much of one of Abram's travel lanes. In addition, driving hazards resulting from winter driving conditions, snowbanks which further impair views, the downgrade on Abram from the west of the proposed parking lot entrance, and pedestrians using the road because it lacks sidewalks add further reasons to not approve the OP and zoning bylaw amendment application. Furthermore, if the 56 vehicle parking lot is not paved with painted stalls but left as gravel, this will undoubtedly reduce its capacity, meaning that overflow vehicles will park on Abram. If that happens, it's very likely that most churchgoers will want to park as close as possible to the church, leaving their cars parked on Abram as another hazard. Other comments and concerns. A primary purpose of Sioux Lookout official plan is to avoid land use conflicts by ensuring that neighboring land uses are compatible with each other. The proposed institutional zone, i.e. church, land use would not be compatible with at least 2, if not 3 of its adjoining land uses. The neighbor to the west is a heavy industrial operation. Across the road to the east is a light industrial land use. The neighboring property to the south is a private recreational facility, which I believe is inappropriately zoned residential, and the properties to the north are properly zoned residential. Based on my viewing of the site, it is questionable whether or not the lot is adequately sized for the proposed use. If the lot is too small for a 6,000 square foot church, by the way, the application says it's for an 8,000 square foot church, a properly sized septic field, and a parking lot with 56 parking spaces, my concerns about a church operating on the site and its resulting traffic hazards are moot. The elevation of the west half of the lot neighboring Dunphy's backhoe is quite low. On-site vegetation and the near surface water level in the pond indicate the groundwater table is high. Surface soils appear to be clay or silt, and the imported gravel pad adjacent to the existing entrance is the only high and dry area. In addition to these development restrictions, natural drainage across and alongside the lot will undoubtedly add to the size of the septic field. Therefore, I submit that a proper site assessment by qualified professionals is required before a decision can be made to approve the rezoning applications. Finally, another issue that concerns me is that I understand the residential lot in question has already been sold, i.e. the previous owner has already been paid. If this is the case, and the new owners are expecting your sympathy for their hasty purchase, leading to approval for their proposal, I trust that Council's decision will not be affected by this fact, and that forgiveness will not be easier than permission. Respectfully submitted. So the next letter was received from Brian Legros and Jennifer Hoey. I received 3 letters from a group of folks who gave me permission to only read the letter once because it was basically the same letter. So this letter is from Brian Legros and Jennifer Hoey, Larry and Donna Hoey, and Jacqueline Hoey. Dear Mr. Lawrence, council members, and Kristen, we are writing in regard to the proposed amendments OPO 6-2021 and Z 12-2021 to build a church on 92 Abram Lake Road. As residents of Loon Lake Road, we use Abram Lake Road on a daily basis, and we oppose the construction of River Glory First Nation Church for the following reasons. Abram Lake Road currently poses safety concerns due to the fact that there are no curbs, sidewalks, and a lack of streetlights. The S-corner where 92 Abram Lake Road is situated is extremely problematic for pedestrians and vehicles as visibility is limited, and during the snowy months, it is common for vehicles to end up in the ditch on both of the corners. The 56 parking spaces that would come with the construction of the church would increase the traffic flow in an area that is already extremely unsafe. In the Municipality of Sioux Lookout's Notice of Statutory Public Meeting, it states that a total of 56 regular parking spaces and 3 accessible parking spaces are required. However, only 52 are provided. It is concerning that the overflow of vehicles will likely park on Abram Lake Road. The road is currently wide enough for 2 lanes of traffic, but it is not wide enough for parking on the side of the road. If the church holds special gatherings such as funeral services and weddings, this may increase the number of people in attendance, including the number of vehicles requiring parking spaces. Should this happen, it will congest an already unsafe area, making it even more dangerous. During the snowy months, the road becomes narrower due to how it is plowed by the municipality. The increased traffic flow and the possible use of Abram Lake Road for additional parking will pose a great risk for accidents, both vehicle and pedestrian. It is likely that many families with children will be attending the church if it is constructed. It is not uncommon to see children playing outside on church grounds. Due to the fact that this land is on 2 corners, it can pose a serious safety risk for children playing in such close proximity to a road that has reduced visibility. Current bylaws do not permit the construction of a church on rural land such as 92 Abram Lake Road. By allowing this, it would set precedent for future requests of the same. These bylaws exist for a reason and should be followed. A church would be better suited in an urban zoned area in Sioux Lookout or Hudson. As taxpayers in the rural residential area, whose taxes are quite a bit higher than those in urban residential areas, it seems unreasonable and inappropriate to rezone existing land as non-tax revenue. The church will not be contributing to the maintenance of Abram Lake Road, even though the increase in traffic will add to the wear and tear. As residents who walk, bike, and drive vehicles on Abram Lake Road, we ask that you seriously consider our opposition and concerns. Not only are we concerned for our own safety and the safety of our loved ones, but we are also concerned for the other residents and visitors of Abram Lake Road, Evergreen Drive, Loon Lake Road, and Horizon Drive, as well as the future attendees of the River Glory First Nation Church, if you were to permit the construction of it. The next letter was received from Garth Hyslop. I was a member of the Sioux Lookout and Area Planning Board when the first official plan was proposed and enacted. To this end, we as a board spent many hours reviewing and enhancing this document to ensure proper future development of Sioux Lookout. With this in mind, I would like to voice my opposition to the consideration of placing a church in a rural residential neighborhood. It was our intention that the rural area, including rural residential, remain rural. Any non-residential uses of these properties were to be directed to those areas which were zoned for those activities. And suitably so, as indicated in your notice of complete application and statutory public meeting, a place of worship is not permitted in properties designated rural residential. Although there are adjacent properties that are zoned light industrial or commercial, this should not offer support to the acceptability of changing the zoning. Those properties existed prior to the existence of the official plan and are grandfathered in as legal non-conforming. It was our intention when creating the official plan that no further non-residential use of the Abram Lake Road area be allowed. I also note that the owners of the non-residential properties maintain a well-treed buffering zone between their properties and those of their residential neighbors in order to maintain the rural residential aspect of the area, and as well to mitigate any negative impact on their neighbors due to their activities. With the addition of a church at the intended location, this mitigation would not exist. The property would be exposed and open to the neighborhood, particularly with area required for automotive parking. As with any zoning amendment, it would be the requirement of the property owner to demonstrate adequate room for a septic field, well, building, and parking lot locates. Owing to the nature of the property, I feel that the application would fail based on these required qualifications alone. The original intention of the Sioux Lookout and Area Planning Board was to maintain the area as residential. Seeing as though there are housing shortages in Sioux Lookout, let's ensure that Abram Lake Road maintains its residential nature now and for future generations. The next letter was received from Gary Queckwish regarding River of Glory Church purchasing property next to our property. Our property is at 24 Abram Lake Road, and we have 6.7 acres. We are in support of this Native group purchasing land to build their church. The next letter was received from Dory Hopko and Kevin Goriak. We have been residents on Abram Lake Road for the past 17 years. Abram Lake Road is a great rural residential area to live, that is serene and essentially limited to local residences. These properties are among the most sought after in our community, which continues to expand the residential tax base. Amending this area other than rural residential would essentially devalue it. The current Abram Lake Road only conforms to older road standards, which is borderline acceptable for residential traffic, let alone subjecting it to heavier usage. The safety on Abram Lake Road is a huge concern, as there have been multiple, over 20, incidents of vehicles in the ditch on the dangerous S-curve. This is the worst area of the road to meet oncoming traffic, where you propose to allow a high usage entrance. Unlike the urban area, we do not have sidewalks for dog walkers or joggers. A huge volume of additional traffic is a major concern. We don't want to see another Wellington Street intersection fiasco. How could the ministry overseeing road safety be agreeable to some of these projects? There are several medical professionals currently living on Abram Lake Road who are on call and have time limits to respond within. This road being the only route, a 56-car parking lot that empties is a huge concern. We cannot always accommodate these projects with the excuse that there is no other available land. The application for zoning change stated that there is a lack of land available for worship property, when in fact there are several lots available locally and in our community of Hudson that are better suited within the current urban zoned area, some of which are owned by the municipality, some of which have sewer and water access. 18 Front Street at 2nd Ave, 233 by 150 foot lots. East of Colors, 132 foot frontage, as well as the adjacent property east that CNR owns. The lot adjacent west of Home Hardware. 5 Alcona Drive, 12 acres with 687 foot frontage east of Home Hardware. Property west of Rainbow Car Wash on Front Street. West of the Sacred Heart School, the other side of the cemetery, municipal property. West end of Queen Street, municipal property. West end of Prince Street, municipal property. Corner of Wellington and Sturgeon River Road, municipal property. Since this amendment suggests reduced parking, it should not be an issue elsewhere. As a taxpayer in the rural residential area, it does not seem reasonable to rezone existing land as non-tax revenue. As a council member or mayor, why would you encourage the expansion of non-tax revenue zoning? Considering a change to the zoning bylaw is defeating the purpose of the planning department. These zoning bylaws were put in place for a reason. It is not the residents of Abram Lake Road's concern that the property was purchased prior to checking the bylaws. The municipality cannot continue amending ordinances. If the mayor and council do not stop the zoning bylaw amendment, what is the purpose of the planning department if bylaws are randomly being amended depending on the applicant? Please seriously consider our concerns as the residents who have moved to Abram Lake Road in favor of the rural residential area. Please keep it that way. Let's not set another bad precedent. And the final letter received this evening is from Mr. Mark Mosher of Sioux Gravel Excavating Limited. Dear Ms. Bartman, please be advised that it is our position that we are opposed to the proposed above noted amendments. Although our company's official zoning is light industrial and having a church adjacent to our property would have minimal impact, we feel that the nature of the area should remain residential. To this end, we have always maintained a well-treed buffer between our property and those of our adjacent neighbors so that we have minimum impact vis-a-vis the residential nature of these properties. If a church is located adjacent to us, we feel we would have to implement additional safeguards to further mitigate any potential risk and damage due to inadvertent trespass. And those are all the received comments on this application.
Thank you, Planning Administrator. Please take a drink of water. Just a reminder that this is a, am I correct, an information report that no decision will be made tonight on this application. The people may propose in Sioux Lookout, as in any municipality in Ontario. We're governed quite tightly by the Provincial Planning Act and other municipal acts that come under provincial control. We are required to review and do a thorough update of our official plan every 10 years with an interim 5 years, I think is a, Kristen may have the name of it, but there's a tweak every 5 years. In addition to which, the official plan and zoning bylaw is dynamic and it does need to change over time. as things change. And the province recognizes that and makes it compulsory for it to be updated every 10 years and tweaked every 5 years. Also, it's everybody's democratic right to propose something if they want to build something and request a zoning bylaw amendment, they may do so. And it's the municipality's duty, responsibility by law to review that application and make a determination on it. So that's the process that's underway here. You know, democracy is expressed every 4 years at the ballot box, and it's exercised at the council table, but it's preserved by these very processes that we're going through. It's a democratic process, and to say that we shouldn't be doing it is just, it's undemocratic. I think it's a good process, and it does allow just what we're seeing here for democracy to work. So let's move on with the applicant's presentation. Is there the applicant or a representative, I believe, are present, and they are invited to speak to the application? Is there a representative who wishes to do that from the applicant? Mr. Clerk, have you been notified of an applicant who wishes to speak?
Through Mayor Lawrence, yes. The primary applicant is Mr. DeRose. He is on the call this evening, so he may wish to speak if he wishes at this time.
Yeah, and you don't have to. I want to make sure we don't miss. Is there a representative of the applicant who wishes to speak?
If I may be permitted to speak, I'd like to welcome and thank Mayor Lawrence and Council for considering our application. My name is Angus Chapman. I'm a band member of Kitchener-Merrick-Superior, which is KI, formerly known as Big Trout Lake, and I'm actually the leading pastor of this River of Glory First Nations Church, which we commenced on May 2014, and since then we've been having our First Nations Church services in different locations, starting off in Lamplighter downstairs for a couple of years. Then we had approached the leading board at the United Church Hall, and that's where we have been having our services for the past 5 years. And we have been searching for an appropriate location where we could build our church, as we are named the River of Glory First Nations Church, and it's an open church for all people. It's not just for First Nations, but the majority of our congregation are First Nation people that live in town from organizations, various organizations here in Sioux Lookout. And also the purpose of starting this First Nations church was for northern community people that come to Sioux Lookout, that stay at the hostels or come to Sioux Lookout to shop, and for that don't speak English, because we can conduct our services in both languages, in OG Cree and in English, and our worship services are in majority in the First Nations language, just to accommodate the people that come there that don't speak English, the elders that come from the north. And I wanted to acknowledge and I appreciate the concerns of the residents of 92 Abram Lake Road. I hear their concerns, and they are legitimate concerns, and we are not in a position to oppose or to try to come against, which is to the best best wishes of the residents of that area. That's not our goal, and we do appreciate the concerns. We weren't totally knowledgeable of those concerns in the beginning when we started to consider. All we focused on in the beginning was that finally we might have a location where we can build our First Nations church. That was what we focused on. But then after a while, we begin to realize what all was included in that, the concerns of the people. So this is actually the first time that I really hear and I understand and I appreciate the expressed concerns of the residents of that 92 Abraham Lake Road. I'm not opposed to their concerns. I appreciate and I accept their concerns, and they are legitimate. And our purpose of applying for rezoning for a church was that reason. It wasn't to upset any community members' lifestyles in that area. We actually never really even focused on that. We were focused on the church building, and we do appreciate their concerns. And if it was me living in that area, I probably would have the same concerns that they have. So I do appreciate that. But our purpose of applying for rezoning was to have our own church building where we don't have to keep renting the hall every Sunday night. We only have services Sunday night at 6 p.m. at this time. But if we did have a church of our own, we would be having services on Wednesdays and Sunday mornings and Sunday evenings, and an occasional special services on a given days on maybe 2 or 3 times a year. That would be the process. And of course, if there was a wedding to take place or if there's a funeral, then we would be conducting that at that time. But as I said, our priorities is not to fight for the piece of land. Our priorities are that would really show a wrong approach of a church lifestyle if we were to come into an opposition with the people of this community when we're trying to help them in any way I can in a spiritual sense. So that's all I'm going to say, and thank you for the time. And I've been listening right through, and I've been here. And I'm sorry I couldn't show you my picture because my camera doesn't work at this time, and I appreciate for this time. So if Carlo DeRose is available, he's the one that was going to give more information. Thank you, Mayor Lawrence and Council and the administration.
Thank you, Mr. Chapman. Mr. DeRose, do you wish to speak?
Yes, just a short little one. I did hear all the concerns as well. And not knowing of Dumpy's Road, what the road allowance was, so that could be a possible entrance for the parking instead of taking even the S corner. We'd have to go and do further studies if that is allowed or not. And I was also looking at, we weren't looking at filling in a man-made pond, which could also be used as a fire protection for that building if necessary. because there is definitely water in that pond. And the whole land is actually lots of litter around there. The pond's got multiple garbage, so the whole site would be cleaned up as well. So we would actually, where the parking lot is, yes, those trees would come down. So it would be give a better view for the people that are driving for that corner. And also if with Public Works, if needed, it's possibility, maybe River Glory, but I can't speak on myself. We would have to do a meeting on that, is give up maybe a little land to widen that corner so it's safer even for the people of Abram Lake Road. And that's what I have to say about that part right now. See what town council has to say. And I thank you just for the speaking of it. And maybe possible that even the snowmobile club could, on our off days, if they needed, they could use the parking lot for, you know, their overflow of people, and they could just walk down. So it might even help them in the end. But I thank you, town council.
Thank you, Mr. DeRose. So we're now into the questions from members of council and questions from members of the public. We'll go to the council table first, and just remind the proponent, you don't have to respond to questions tonight, and the questions will be directed to the chair. If that's, I think, in fairness, with all the information that's being presented, another meeting the next meeting will be perhaps more questions depending on where this goes. So let's go to the council table and see if there are comments or questions from the council table. Council. I see Councillor Timpson.
Yes, thank you very much. Congratulations to Kristen for reading reading those letters. That was amazing. And I want to thank Angus for your very gracious response to this. And I'm sure it was difficult to hear at times, and I suppose enlightening. I think it's really unfortunate that there wasn't some groundwork done before the purchase was made, so that, you know, some of these issues could have been discussed prior to you making the decision to purchase the property. The main concern for me is, I think there were a lot of points made, but is that dangerous curve and the changing the nature of neighborhoods, to me, is something that, in fact, we were discussing that in the application that came before yours, that you know, we need to have neighborhoods preserved. But I do have a couple of questions for the applicant, and two questions. I'm interested to know if there were other properties explored in your search that might be suitable, and in the event this does not go through, are there options? Have you considered options for the land that you have now? So through the chair, those are my questions. I don't know whether it would go to Carlo or Angus.
Angus would be.
All right, Angus, I'll start with Mr. Chapman and see what he has to say. And Mr. Chapman, you can respond or not respond or defer until later. It's your choice.
Yeah, thank you, Lawrence. I will respond. We have looked at a couple of other locations. There was one location out of town towards Hudson where they had radio planes, or I'm not exactly sure what they do over there, but just but towards the road to Hudson there we looked at, but we figured that it was too far, and also the location was inappropriate. The road conditions in the wintertime would not be suitable. So, and And we searched 2 years to try and find a location. But the good side of this purchase is we did purchase already, but the seller had to put a clause in the purchase that if the rezoning is not granted, that he would have the first option for us to resell back the property to him. So we have that option. Thank you, Mayor Lawrence.
Very good. And some of these matters may be private. They're related to legal matter sales, and you don't. I don't think people are expecting you to divulge information that may inhibit your next moves, whatever they may be. Council. I see no for. I do. Sorry, I did see. Sorry, Councillor Lego. I saw Councillor Howie earlier. Go ahead, Councillor Howie.
Through you, Mr. Chair, this question I guess would go to staff as it was cited in one of the letters. But I'm assuming Abram Lake Road meets municipal road requirements given the shoulders and construction, or does it? Does it not?
I think what we were, those are annexed roads, and so the geometry, physical, vertical and horizontal geometry was the province forced them on us, and in the configuration they were, and I would believe that's the part that does not meet standard. But is there a staff member who could, is Public Works still on here? I'll go through UCAO.
Thank you. Through you, Mayor Lawrence. Given that it's Matt's first meeting, I'm not sure if he wants to address it, but we'll defer to Matt and see how he does. Thank you.
Hi. So the road itself is for a rural road. It doesn't meet the requirement. It's just, the shoulder itself doesn't. The road width itself is wide enough, but the shoulder does lack. That's why it has such a narrow shoulder on it. Yeah, there's it would definitely have to be upgraded. I mean, my personal opinion for the increase in traffic.
Councillor Howie, anything else?
Yes, I did have a question on another point about the neighboring property zoning. Is the neighboring property, the abutting property, zoned residential? The
So which property, sorry?
The Ojibwe Power Toboggan Association, is that property zoned residential?
CAO, can I go to the planning coordinator for that? Yep.
Yes, through you, Mayor Lawrence. That property is zoned rural residential as well.
So that's it, Councillor Howie? Thank you. Councillor Lego.
Yeah, I like to say thanks to everyone that put in their comments today. I do travel that road quite a bit as my father lives down Abram Lake Road, and access off of Highway 72 onto Abram Lake Road is an issue right now. And those two 90-degree turns are a major issue. Even in the summertime, if you're going a bit too fast, you're going, you may be going off. So I believe that it's unfortunate that the land has already been paid for, but I would like to see it just remain as rural residential and a house be built on it. And then hopefully that maybe Mr. Chapman or Mr. DeRose can get a hold of our planning department and see what is available that is zoned properly for a church in our community, and maybe guide them in the right direction, and hopefully that they can sell the property that they bought. I think that staff has received ample information from the public regarding this issue, so we hope to see a response at some later date. But for me, I would like to just remain as rural residential. That's going in favor of what that area is supposed to be. those other businesses were always there. So that's my points on this issue.
Thank you. Further councillor comments? And just, we're not making a decision tonight. So Councillor Cassidy?
Yeah, I echo some of Councillor Lego's statements there as well with regards to the folks taking the time to write in and express their concerns, as well as the fact that I think there's significant upgrades to be made to that entire corner before whether it's a church, whether it's any type. I don't think any kind of commercial property that would support that many vehicles. I just don't think that area is right for it. Unless there's some significant upgrade with other properties around with the road, I don't know how that would fit, given the amount of concerns and issues that were brought forward by members of the public tonight. So.
Thank you, Council. Councillor Howie.
I do apologize. I did miss a couple questions on my list in my notes. So I was looking at the drawings, specifically at page 2 of drawings bracket large, close bracket, and I noticed, I believe behind the altar, which would be, according to the drawing, in the east direction, it looks like a white cylindrical. Is that a propane tank abutting the building? So would there be a propane tank proposed in the, I guess, in front of the building along the roadside? Is that?
Can I answer that?
Yes, please do.
Yeah. Yes, that was actually, I put a propane tank in there for now just for the heating. It could be anything, no propane or fuel, diesel fuel. I just put it in there just to show that it could be a possibility of propane tank there.
Thank you. Councillor Howie, another question?
Yeah, my next question was, given that this is an informational session, and I guess this would go to staff for a report, but will the fire chief be commenting on the feasibility of having sufficient water pressure on a well or potential pressurized holding tank for sprinklers in order to meet fire code?
I'll let the planning coordinator answer that. Can I direct that CAO to the planning coordinator, or the fire chief's not here?
Perhaps Mr. Brinkman?
Oh, thank you.
Through you, Mayor Lawrence, yeah, we can, through the next process and kind of to digging into some of these concerns, we can contact the fire chief and get his opinion on the ability to properly, provide fire services for a building of this size.
Thank you.
That's it. Thanks, Councillor Howie. Thanks, CBO. Anything further, Council? I'm seeing nothing, so unless I hear a scream, we'll move on to the next section, which is questions from members of the public. Members of the public are invited to speak to the application. The public can ask questions of clarification or seek background information, speak in support of the application, or speak in opposition to the application. All questions will be directed through the chair. It is requested that only one question be asked at a time. Please identify yourself before you ask your question so that you can be properly recorded in the minutes of the meeting. Members of the public, is there anybody who wishes to speak? I see Mr. Pete.
Hi, Doug. Thanks. One question. I'm assuming this is going to a planning report and then going to come back to council. Will there be an opportunity for the public to input to that planning report?
I will let staff answer that. I don't want to assume, but I believe the answer is yes. But the CAO, I'll direct that to you.
I'll defer to Mr. Brinkman.
Through you, Mayor Lawrence, the council report itself will attempt to speak to each of the concerns raised, and if there's a way to rectify the concern raised, or if there isn't, and ultimately based on a lot of that feedback, that we would kind of provide a recommendation whether to approve or not approve. As for access for the public, we have to hand in our council reports at a certain time before the meeting, and then it goes public, I believe, the Monday before the meeting, as I understand it. So I think that would be when the public could have access to the actual report, I guess. But we at the staff level can speak to any of the citizens, through the process and kind of let them know where we're headed, I guess you could say.
So am I hearing that the report would be available on the Monday before the Wednesday, so we would have it for 2 days to be able to read it and see how it's addressed the concerns expressed? Is that what I'm hearing?
I can answer that. That's the standard procedure, absolutely.
Okay. Okay, thanks.
Thank you. And I saw Mr. Labossiere, you had a question. You had your hand up, I believe. You are on mute, Mr. Labossiere. Thank you. There we go.
Okay. Thank you very much for having giving me an opportunity to speak. I'm a resident on Abram Lake and have a slightly different opinion of the project than my partner. So it was Carol Wood. But I have two questions really. That one is just very short, and I had heard at some point that there will be another meeting because of the number of submissions or people that wanted to speak. Is that the case, that there would be another public meeting?
That is correct.
And when?
Correct. No, sorry. Excuse me. I'm going to let the clerk answer that question. It's not a public meeting, but clerk, please proceed.
Through you, Mayor Lawrence, thank you. Yes, so this evening's meeting and the notice period leading up to this evening's meeting is the primary opportunity for the public to provide comment on such applications. The next report that will be produced from the Planning Department, as Mr. Brinkman outlined, will address the concerns that were raised either in the letters or during the comments this evening. That report will then be presented to council at a council meeting, and then council will make its final determination on how it wishes to proceed. So the opportunity for public comment has been during the notice period via submissions and at this evening's meeting.
Thank you. Okay, so if you'll permit me a bit of a preamble, I do have a question, and it is of a global kind of nature. So it's been very interesting to see how many people have responded and how thoughtfully they've responded. It's been really like Mayor Lawrence said, a really great example of democratic process in municipal government. So I can't help observing, however, that the majority of the observations, concerns of the residents are around the road. And the question that kind of arises from that is, does the road need upgrading or sidewalks and street lighting in the future of Abram Lake Road, which would constitute a very substantial change to the character of the neighborhood were they to come about. And I can see a variety of reasons justifying that. Increased traffic, which means an increased population as lots are sold and houses are being built. There are more people on the road. I walk my dog on the road every day. Do I want to see, a wider road with proper sidewalks and streetlights? I don't think that's why people live here, frankly. And so I'll get back to that particular issue in a moment. But one of the concerns, no one has really expressed concern about the nature of churches. It's all been about the traffic and so on. And I think that, there's conflicting studies. I did a little bit of research about the role that churches play in communities, and the evidence is kind of this way and that way in terms of property values and so on. The concerns of the immediate neighbors about not traffic so much as vehicles and lights and activity on the street, I think, are very legitimate. I think that as I said, if you look at the studies, they're kind of going both ways in terms of, do churches enhance property values or not? It depends on the nature of the church and the nature of the development. So raising the lot, leveling it, creating a steel building that's more like a shed than a church, would not do much for anybody, I think. But if it were properly planned and designed, I think it could really enhance the quality of the neighborhood. So I think the issue that's kind of raised there is, what is the nature of the planning process, and to what extent do municipalities engage in the process of design of communities? Not just zoning, not just technical requirements, not just is it approved or not approved, but actually, can we develop a process in which the community participates in the enhancement of the value of neighborhood? And I would love to see a council that would be able to engage the community in that kind of process. And in a way, I think this church could provide a very useful lever to enable that kind of participatory development process to happen. So there's always something that surprises in life, it seems, and Mr. Rosiak's presentation came as a quite a surprise. Like, who knew that? I don't think most of the people that wrote those letters knew that there was a subdivision development being considered. I think they would probably like to know what 20 some odd new houses in the neighborhood is going to mean for traffic and services and so on. So Mr. Rosiak's issue about the church occupying, it's a very limited amount of traffic. I mean, come on, like it's a lot of parking spaces, because that's the requirement. You've got a certain amount of square footage, you've got to have a certain amount of parking spaces. But as Mr. Chapman has pointed out, it's a very small number of occasions on which people are going to be using those parking spaces, and his congregation is very small. I mean, you've got maybe 20 cars at the moment. So, you know, long term, potentially, of course, he's hoping that his congregation is going to grow and it will be busier. But really, churches are not a traffic issue. You know, they're sporadic. It is pulse traffic, as Mr. Pete very helpfully pointed out. So, and it does need to be considered. And there are the road issues, the curves of the road, the width of the road, the ditches, sidewalks, lighting, all of those things are very important concerns. But I really think the issue here is not the church, it's actually the subdivision. And I think there needs to be
So I think I'll just say the issue on the table on which we speak to tonight is the zoning bylaw application for the church.
Yeah.
The subdivision is another matter.
Okay, so thank you. I'm going to wrap up. I think I would like to hear from council as to what their bigger vision is. Certainly there is a bigger vision for the town generally. The development of the beach front is a very ambitious project. Nobody really...
Once again, Mr. LeBoss, I'm going to say that the official plan and its consideration isn't the topic on the table tonight, and we do have a process, a very democratic process every 10 and an interim 5 years to review the vision of the municipality as it developed through the official plan process. But that's not what we're discussing tonight. It's the zoning bylaw application for a church.
Yeah. Okay, so I think the question that I would have for council is,
and again, excuse me, it's you're allowed to comment and make comment, but this isn't where you enter into debate or question council. But so if you have a comment, please make it.
Yes, well, I think my comment is really, I'd like to know what the larger vision is and whether there's an opportunity to engage in a larger process of the design of the neighborhood so that a development like a church on that particular site would fit into an overall concept for where the neighborhood is going.
So again, I would refer you to the official plan process, which allows for that. And then when things come up in between that official plan process, where the very thing that you're talking about and wishing for happens, then there are site-specific zoning bylaw requests, amendment requests, which is what's happening tonight, in between those official 5-year and 10-year reviews. So they do happen. I would encourage you to participate in those as they come up. Appreciate your comment.
Thank you. Thank you.
Any other members of the public who wish to speak? Seeing or hearing none. And we'll just take some advice from staff here. This will, for the conclusion of the public meeting. Since we're not making a decision, how do I approach this next part of the document?
Through you, Mayor Lawrence, this is still a requirement so that individuals know that when council does make a decision, that one, they have a right to be notified of the decision, and they need to notify the planning administrator or planning coordinator of that, and also their rights with respect to appeal. So we still need to read this information.
Thank you. This concludes the public meeting regarding the official plan amendment number OP06-2021 and zoning bylaw number Z12-2021. If any member of the public wishes to be notified of the decision of council in respect of the application, you must make a written request to the planning coordinator. Notice to appeal the decisions of council to the Ontario Land Tribunal must be filed with the planning coordinator no later than 20 days from the date the notice of decision is circulated. The notice to appeal shall be sent to the attention of the planning coordinator and must include the following information. The notice of appeal shall be sent, that's a repeat, the reasons for the appeal and the fee as described under the Ontario Land Tribunal Act in the amount of $1,100 payable by certified check to the Minister of Finance, Province of Ontario. Only individual corporations or public bodies may appeal the decision of council to the Ontario Land Tribunal. An appeal may not be filed by an unincorporated association or group. A notice of appeal may be filed in the name of an individual who is a member of the association or group. A motion that council receives the planning report dated November 17, 2021, respecting official plan amendment number OP06-2021 and zoning bylaw amendment number Z12-2021, and further, that council directs staff to prepare a subsequent planning report for presentation to council at a subsequent council meeting that considers the feedback received prior to and at the November 17th, 2021 statutory public meeting. Moved by Councillor Cassidy, seconded by Councillor Lego. All in favor? Carried. Confirmatory bylaw number 110-21, being a bylaw to confirm the proceedings of the Council of the Municipality of Sioux, November 17th, 2021 statutory public meeting be read a first, second, and third time and passed. Moved by Councillor Howie, seconded by Councillor Cassidy. All in favor? Carried. And Mr. Clerk, are we just being technically leaving, or how are we doing? We're not in a closed session, so do we just stay on this site for the regular meeting?
That's correct. Yes.
So as we're about to start the regular meeting, unusual as it may seem, we've been at it for almost 2.5 hours. I think I will declare a 5-minute recess before we start the regular council meeting. So if we can be back at it, let's say at 5 to 8, 7:55.
Thank you. And Mayor Lawrence, if you could just adjourn this meeting.
Oh, yeah, we will adjourn the meeting in our usual way by saying good night, since we don't have motions to adjourn anymore. Thank you very much to the public and the proponent for your thoughtful presentations. You know, Clerk, you can't have your pie and eat it too. We don't want a motion to adjourn and then you ask me.
I still need you to announce that we're adjourned. Thank you, Mayor Lawrence.
I'll call the regular meeting of council November 17th to order at 7:55 p.m. and ask if there are any amendments to the agenda, Mr. Clerk.
Thank you. Through you, Mayor Lawrence. Yes, the first item that we would like to add would be item 7.7. And that is a resolution regarding Kenora District Home for the Aged.
Okay.
As well, based on the statutory public meeting, I believe council wishes to add item 7.8, which is the zoning bylaw amendment number Z11-2021, 94 King Street, Mr. Southall.
All right.
And additionally, to complete that one, it would also, under item number 10, we would be adding bylaw number 105-21, being a bylaw to amend the Municipality of Sioux Comprehensive Zoning Bylaw number 85-18 as amended with respect to 94 King Street zoning bylaw application.
Very good.
And those are the only additions at this time.
Thank you. A motion to adopt the agenda as amended for the November 17th meeting. Moved by Councillor Fenlon, seconded by Councillor, looks like Councillor Cardy's got her hand up, but we'll have to, Councillor Timpson. Thank you. All in favor? Carried. Declarations of pecuniary interest.
Through you, Mayor Lawrence, pursuant to our procedure bylaw, we are required to report declarations that were made in closed session at a previous meeting. So in accordance with that, just noting that Councillor Howie did declare interest in an item on the closed session agenda from the October 20th, 2021 regular council meeting. That item was related to airport operations.
Thank you. And no declarations for tonight's regular meeting.
That is correct, Mayor Lawrence. Thank you.
Thank you. Adoption of minutes, that the minutes of the October 20th, 2021 statutory public meeting, the October 20th, 2021 regular council meeting, the October 5th, 2021, and the September 27th, 2021 special council meetings be approved as presented. Moved by Councillor Fenlon, seconded by Councillor Cassidy. Any discussion? All in favor? Carried. Motion that the minutes of the Police Services Board meetings held on July 21st, June 23rd, April 21st, 2021, and January 20th, 2021, and the minutes of the Municipal Truth and Reconciliation Committee meetings held on September 21st and August 23rd, 2021 be received. Moved by Councillor Lego, seconded by Councillor Bath. Discussion. All in favor? Carried. That motion that the minutes of the District of Kenora Home for the Aged meeting held on September 30th, 2021 and July 8th, 2021, and the minutes of the Northwestern Health Unit Board meeting held on September 24th, 2021 be received. Moved by Councillor Fenlon, seconded by Councillor Howie. Any discussion? Thank you. All in favor? Carried. Determination of items requiring separate discussion. Thank you. Item 7.1, replacement of loader at Public Works. Councillor Cassidy. Item 7.2, former Mayfair Theatre. I think we need to lift this because it asks for direction. So we will be lifting that. Item 7.3, Sioux Municipal Accommodation Tax Committee. Councillor Cassidy. Item 7.4, 2022 Municipal Election Restricted Acts and Delegation of Authority. Nobody lifting. Does this need to get added to bylaws? No, it'll be approved in the, that's fine. Good. Item 7.5, council boards, commissions, and committees, a review and recommendations. And again, I believe there are options here, so it will be lifted. Item 7.6, resolutions to be submitted for consideration at the 2022 Kenora District Municipal Association Annual General Meeting. I see none. Item 7.7, Kenora District Home for the Aged. And clerk, you could just fill in the gap here.
Through Mayor Lawrence, certainly. In accordance with the Area 2 appointment to the Kenora District Home for the Aged, which covers the communities of Pickle Lake, Ignace, Sioux, and Dryden. There's a vacancy on the board right now, and we, as directed by council at a previous meeting, I reached out to the other municipalities to see if there was interest in any of their elected officials to serve on the board for the remainder of this term. And so Mayor Penny Lucas of Ignace has put her name forward. There are no other names. And so in order to enable that appointment for the remainder of the term, which would end on November 14th, 2022, the Kenora District Home for the Aged requires a resolution endorsing her appointment from each of the participating municipalities. So that's what that resolution is.
And if we don't lift it, it is approved in the consent agenda.
Correct.
So 7.7, Kenora District Homes for the Aged. No, that's good. And 7.8, the zoning bylaw with reference to the King Street project, the Southall project that was reviewed at the first statutory public meeting this evening. I see none. So the items I have marked for as lifted are 7.1, 7.2, 7.3, and 7.5. With that said, a motion to adopt the items not requiring separate discussion, item 7.4, 7.6, 7.7, and 7.8. Moved by Councillor Bath, seconded by Councillor Fenelon. All in favor? Carried. So first item is the replacement of loader at Public Works. The council approves the purchase of a new loader for Public Works Department at a cost of $280,000 plus HST. And further, the council authorizes the transfer of $280,000 from the fleet reserve to purchase the new loader. Moved by Councillor Cassidy, seconded by Councillor Lego. Discussion starting with Councillor Cassidy.
Thank you, Mayor Lawrence. I guess just for my own sake on this, I'm trying to understand, is the landfill and the user fees from the landfill, do they cover the cost or do they contribute to our equipment reserve?
So CAO, are we directing that to Public Works? Or
We'll give that to our treasurer, Carly Collins.
Thank you, Treasurer.
Through you, Mayor Lawrence, the landfill user fees, yes, whatever surplus is at the end of the year, some of it goes towards fleet, particularly for the landfill. And then every year in the budget, we put in $180,000 into the roads reserve specifically for fleet with what they would need. So we have two different reserves set aside for fleet in regards to Public Works, one in particular for the landfill, the other one for roads.
Okay, and then this is coming out of the landfill, specifically out of the landfill fleet?
No, this report will the new loader for this will come out of the roads.
Okay, and then the old loaders going, or the new loaders going to Public Works, and then, okay. That works. Is there, so another question with regards to the loader, and it's probably more for Public Works Manager. Do we have the compaction tires for these? I know that we talk about tires, but right, isn't one kind of key point with landfill management, the compaction of the material and good and getting those cells down as much as possible? Do we have those tires set up, and would they be able to go on these loaders, or are those used, or maybe you can enlighten me on how that works?
CAO, where am I directing this to?
To Matthew.
Public Works.
Yes, through you, Mayor Lawrence. We actually already have a compactor at the landfill. That is the big steel drum loader out there. The old track loader was the dozer out there. That's what failed. We used to have a loader out there for years, and we tried replacing it with a track loader. There's just too much movement and just wear and tear on the machine. That's what happened. It's why it degraded so fast. So we're looking at going back to a rubber tire loader. With that being said, that's why I also put in there that we were talking about getting solid rubber tires for the loader when it goes out to the landfill, the existing loader from Public Works, to eliminate flat tires and things like that. That was the only issue that was ever out there with the loader. Just with the sludge pile and so much traveling, that's the better machine to have there for sure.
Thank you.
That's it, Councillor Cassidy?
Yes, that's it.
Thank you. Council, further questions, comments? Councillor Fenlon.
You say you're going to use solid rubber tires in the landfill site? Hello?
Yes, for the loader going out there, yes.
That's from my experience with loaders and stuff like that. They don't work too well because they're heavy, eh? They just don't seem to work well. They slip too much and you're going to be stuck more than you want to be, especially with solid tires on them.
The only reason behind the solid tires is when we push the metal piles and things like that. They've had issues with lots of flat tires in the cell. It won't actually be going in the cell, the loader. That's the compactor's job. So it'll just be basically for cleaning up the landing, the metal pile, the brush piles, and the sludge pile on the side road.
Okay, good.
Anything further, Council? Seeing nothing, I will call for the vote. All in favor? Carried. Thank you. Former Mayfair Theatre. The council provide direction to staff regarding the next steps for the former Mayfair Theatre. And clerk, we can discuss, staff will discuss this report before we have a motion on the table. Thank you. So over to staff for the Mayfair Theatre.
Through you, Mayor Lawrence. So we're finally at a point with the kind of interior demolitions of the building that we could start thinking about the next steps for the building. There was some delays with the asbestos removal, and that we found a bunch more than was not previously noticed. And the scaffolding, they had some issues with the scaffolding because of the high ceiling heights in the theater itself. But it's my understanding they should be cleared out of there by the end of the month. So speaking to that for next year, it's time to start, promoting this building ideally, and the next big project for that building, if I think the idea is we're gonna keep the building, is to repair the roof, especially the lower southern roof. Is definitely needs to be done. If you notice from the pictures in the report, you can see there's definitely a little more water damage there than there is in the theater side, where actually everything looks like it's holding up pretty well and is draining appropriately. So looking at to put on an EPDM rubberized roof membrane with rigid foam, you're looking at $400,000 to $450,000 likely for the entire roof. To do just the EPDM roofing and some roof repairs, you're looking at probably the $200,000 to $250,000 range. Or we kind of leave it as is and kind of market the property as is.
Council, questions? I guess I'll start it off then. Oh, here we go. Thank you. There we go. They're all coming up now. Councillor Bath.
Yeah, okay, so looking at the south roof, we've always known that roof was in pretty bad shape. Now, looking at it in the photos here, it looks like the roof itself, like the structure is probably needs to be replaced. Am I right on that, or is that just bad, or just ugly pictures?
Through Mayor Lawrence, I haven't looked too hard, but it's a lot of it's just discoloration, just a lot of leaching, a lot of moisture in that space. And I think the wood itself isn't that is solid. It's just it looks a lot worse than what it is.
I just follow up then. Do we have some way of testing that before we go ahead and cover it?
For sure. I think we'd have to take a better, harder look just to confirm that the wood and over there that the spans aren't that far, so the cost to replace the 2x12s in place wouldn't be too much.
That's it for now. Thank you. Councillor Timpson.
You said that the roof would be another 400,000 to fix that roof. Do I understand that correctly?
Through Mayor Lawrence, that would include insulating the roof as well. So now you'd have a fully insulated, sealed roof so that from the interior, there's no need for insulation of vapor barrier on the roof side of things.
So what would it be if you didn't insulate it, if you just fixed the roof? Do you have to do the whole thing?
Through Mayor Lawrence, I think based on the age and condition of the roof, we'd have to look at doing the whole thing. I think a big part of that would be to open it up to confirm the condition of the substrate, and yeah, I think it has to be done, I would say, in its entirety.
We're looking at close to $1 million we will have put into this. Am I right there? $800,000?
Through Mayor Lawrence, yeah. So we've spent about $350,000 with the interior demos, and adding, if we did the full roof with the rigid foam, we're looking at another $400,000 to $450,000. So the costs are definitely skyrocketing, but it's a big old building that it just needs a lot of work.
Councillor Timpson, yep.
I was just say, I mean, offhand, I think we should just try to market it as is and see where we go with it. I mean, that's really getting out of hand. I think 300,000 was what it would have cost to demolish it. Was that not the figure years ago?
There were various figures. We never had I think 500,000 was thrown out. Somebody local said they could do it for a lot less, but that wasn't a quote or whatever. But my memory, and council helped me, or CBO, you can help too. There were varying numbers on demolition, but 300 to 500 was sort of where I thought the estimate was targeted, depending on the hazardous materials that would be discovered.
Yeah,
right?
Through your Mayor Lawrence, consideration for demolishing the 300,000 didn't consider the asbestos removal, you could say, at the time.
But we were aware of it, and that's why we've done this. I guess I'm going to object to the term skyrocketing, because this is more or less where I thought it would be, maybe a little bit ahead. But the demolition now, you could call a demolition contractor, and he sees and knows exactly what he's going to do. There's no need to go in there and gut it. There's no worry about hazardous materials. There's a certificate that says they've all been removed. It's the process now, I'm going to guess, is $150,000 demolition. It's no longer 500,000. We've done so much of the demolition already. CBO?
Exactly.
So I think Councillor Timpson hit it on the head. Are we going to invest more money before we know we have a use, or it's not a matter of cutting our losses? I think we were marching in this direction to keep our options open. We've invested money to get it more ready for either a demolition, it's demolition ready, let's say, or it's new purposing ready as well. So Councillor Timpson, sorry, I don't think we're getting up to $1 million. We're getting up to 500,000, which I think was, if we go ahead with demolition, would be the number we targeted on. If we go on ahead and invest 450,000, now we're doing something different. We're not, we've decided to take the fork in the road that doesn't lead to demolition. It leads into, we better find a new use for this building or a new owner. Councillor Lego.
Yeah. Hold on. I would agree with Councillor Timpson that we should be looking to market it. Maybe we see what comes out within the first or second quarter, and then after that we can look at demolition as an option down the road in 2022. Because there'll probably be would it be more of a summer job? Or does it matter?
Through you, Mayor Lawrence, I think in the summertime it's always better off, a little easier to get the foundations out of the ground and whatnot.
Okay, so yeah, I see if we can market it now, and it's way better than it was. People walking into it know that the roof needs to be done, and it's going to cost X amount of dollars, and I'm sure there's funding out there for someone to step up and make that into a beautiful place downtown. And if not, we'll have to make the decision down the road to take it down.
Councillor Cassidy.
Yeah, I agree with Councillor Timpson, Councillor Lego. I think we're at a point now where we've done significant amount of work to get it to like a pretty solid blank slate where any developer can come in and they know what they're getting into. Takes a lot of the guesswork and probably some hesitations away from that. I guess depending on, for the CBO or staff, like how imminent are these roof repairs needed? I know it's sat for many years without them done, but in your opinion, how much time do we have that we could potentially market it for before we really did have to look at something? Or what's your thoughts on that?
Through you, Mayor Lawrence, I can't see why we couldn't get another year out of it. I would definitely want to take a look at the southern lower roof a little harder, just because that's where you see the obvious major signs of leakage. But when you look at the theater roof itself, it looks pretty much intact, and there's not a lot of water that's coming through the roof there, so it's being directed where it should go.
Yeah, so I guess with that, I would suggest, or I would support that we market it and actively try and recruit someone to develop it, and roof repairs can be part of negotiations for the sale of this. Wherever this goes, I think we need to get it out there, get it on the market, and get something moving on it. So that's my thoughts.
Thank you. Back to the council table. Oh, yep, Councillor Bath.
Yeah, that's exactly what I think is that we're in a position now to market it. You can walk in there and you see what you have to do now. Yeah, I think it is marketable, and I think the way things are moving in Sioux, it will move. I just wonder if there's anything we need to do to this roof temporarily to protect it further. The south section I'm talking about. I think the theater roof is fine, but the south section, obviously it's not. So is there anything we can do temporarily just to not let it get worse?
Through you, Mayor Lawrence, yeah, we'll go and take a look and see what we can do to kind of stem the leak there.
All right, Council. Oh, Councillor, back to Councillor Timpson. Yep.
Yeah, what, do we have any sense of what we would be asking if we were to put it on the market in the present condition? Would we be able to get what we've put into it so far, or do we know? Do we have any idea at all what we might reasonably ask for it in this condition?
I think that should be a discussion in closed session. Probably Councillor Timpson, what are we going to value and what direction do we give to staff in terms of marketing values and whatever? I don't think we want to discuss that in open session, and my thoughts, I'm not sure. It will become eventually a sale, right? And I think pricing and negotiations, Mr. Clerk, can you help me with that be in closed session?
To you, Mayor Lawrence, that would be appropriate for closed session discussion, yes.
So I'm not trying to cut you off, Councillor, but I think that's where it should probably be. If that's fair enough.
Through you, Mayor, sorry, just to speak to that through you, Mayor Lawrence, and it'd be good to gauge interest and see what kind of interest we're going to see and what the market will bear to.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I think that's what, starting with Councillor Timpson, when she talked about going to market, that's, I think, and I see the thread through at least 4 councillors here of going to market as is and seeing what the market is. And so Council, is that fair? Councillor Timpson, you okay with that? So I think clerk and CBO, there's a third option that perhaps we need to add, which is, well, you can help me, clerk. Go ahead.
To you, Mayor Lawrence, yes, I prepared a resolution for council's consideration, if you wish. That council directs staff to proceed with the marketing of the former Mayfair Theatre building and property.
Mover. Councillor Lego, seconded by Councillor Timpson. And staff, thanks for the report, staff. I know it wasn't necessarily one of the options, but the information in here led us to this option, so thank you. Any further discussion? All in favor? Carried. Thank you. Moving on to Silicote Accommodation Tax Committee, that council appoint the following members to the Silicote Municipal Accommodation Tax Committee. 1, local accommodator, Anshul Sharma. 2, lodge outfitter, Andrea McCavan. 3, chamber executive, Christine Huey. 4, municipal staff member, Carly Collins, treasurer. 5, public member, Vera Commuter Lacroix. Moved by. Mover for that motion, Councillor Cassidy, seconded by Councillor Fenelon. And discussion starting with Councillor Cassidy.
Yeah, I guess just a question for staff, going through the report with reference to the agreement that was negotiated with the chamber. I'm just curious because we did make the decision that lodges and outfitters weren't going to be part of the MAT tax, where the decision and rationale came to put them on the MAT tax committee.
CAO.
Thank you. Taxing my memory a bit. Through you, Mayor Lawrence. In the initial report that was proposed, we wanted to have a wide variety of representation on the community. Just because outfitters are not part of the MAT tax, they may, because it has to do with tourism, they may be applying to this fund. So we wanted to have an array of a good representation of different community groups or different sections that make up the committee to be able to accommodate requests that come in for tourism or event-related activities in the community.
Okay, I understand. So it's request based then. Okay, no, that clarifies that. Thank you.
Councillor Timpson.
Just a comment that I noted that the member from the public, they received no interest from the public, but when somebody was asked specifically based on what we know they could contribute, they accepted. And I think that's a really good lesson for how do we recruit people to committees, is just reaching out to people we know that might do a good job. That's all I noted that. That's all.
Thank you. Councillor Lego.
So 50% of the MAT tax goes to this committee, and they have carte blanche say over that money.
CAO.
I see some shaking heads.
Through you, Mayor Lawrence, to Councillor Lego and Council. What is going to happen now, once the committee is formed, they have to come up with terms of reference in an application process to be able to apply for funds, to allocate those funds. So they have to report to the municipality how those funds are being used in their budget per se each year as part of our agreement. So that's kind of why we have oversight or part of the committee membership coming from the municipality to ensure that the funds are being used for what the intended purpose is.
Okay, I thought when it was brought to council table that they had final say on where the money goes, and that the municipality was not allowed to tell them how to use the money.
Through you,
That's
Mayor
what I
Lawrence-
remember.
To you, Mayor Lawrence, to a certain extent, yes, they have autonomy to allocate those funds, but it has to be within the auspices of tourism and community events. So when they get together after this meeting, if council approves the appointment of these members to the committee, they will be putting together terms of reference in an application process that will still be vetted by municipal staff to make sure that they're following the proper guidelines.
Okay, thank you very much.
Anything further, council? Thank you. All in favor? Carried. Item 7.5, that council support staff recommendations respecting council appointed boards, commissions, and committees as outlined in the clerk's report, number 2021-147 dated November 17, 2021, and further, that council directs staff to take the necessary steps to implement staff's recommendations respecting council appointed boards, commissions, and committees. Moved by Councillor Fanlon, seconded by Councillor Bath. Discussion, and just going to try to get to that one. Sorry, council. Is this, will this be presented as a report then, clerk?
Through you, Mayor Lawrence, I'm happy to answer any questions about the report and the options that are presented.
All right, because it is an option-based, so I can't quite finish this resolution at this time. Maybe I'll just go to council, the council table first. I didn't put an initial down for which councillor lifted this, if they'd like to go first. Councillor Timpson, was it you? No. Yep.
Yeah, I did.
Thank you.
All right. Yeah, in terms of staff recommendation number 1, option A, there's a recommendation to keep the Environment Committee and the TRC Committee as advisory committees. I think we need to do that at this point. Option B is about transitioning them to community-based. The reason I think it would be a good idea for us to keep it at this point is these two issues are front and center for, in the case of environment, for the world globally, and for the case of reconciliation and Indigenous relations for us locally. I think it would be I think that us maintaining these two committees as advisory committees is a very strong statement that we are moving forward on the environmental issues that need to be addressed. As a result of COP26, there's going to be changes, there's going to be necessary policies that are going to have to change. And the bottom line will be that the change is going to occur at the local level with local government and the people on the ground. And I think our keeping the Environment Committee as an advisory is extremely a very strong message from the municipality. Similarly, with the Truth and Reconciliation Committee, I think that keeping that is a strong statement that this government is working towards reconciliation and not divesting it to a community committee. That's how I feel about it. Some of the Environment Committee members wish to discuss this at the next Environment Committee meeting as to whether or not they would be interested in transferring to becoming a community committee. And I, do defer to that. And so I would suggest that perhaps that be deferred, that the Environment Committee change be deferred until the Environment Committee can discuss it as a group. I did notice that a lot of members of the Environment Committee did respond to the to the survey. So that's where I stand on that. That we not go option B with those two committees tonight. And in terms of the Environment Committee, further discussion with them and possibly the TRC committee as well.
Councilor Lego.
Yeah, just going off of what Councillor Timpson said, should we not bring these to each of these committees or advisory committees and ask them, maybe they would prefer to go and be a community-based group and not have it be structured under the municipality itself. So I think I know that Mayor Lawrence, you sit on the Truth and Reconciliation, and Councillor Timpson and Councillor Cassidy sit on the Environment Committee. So would that be a better option to sort of defer this and allow those two committees to decide?
In some ways, I think it's a council decision, but I agree. By adopting option A, we're basically adopting the status quo for those two committees, and it's something that could be introduced at a committee meeting sometime over the next year with an appropriate staff member there to discuss it, and those two committees could discuss it. There was, through the survey, there was opportunity for input, and I sense from the Environment Committee it was a bit more to stay with the committee structure, and the TRC committee response was maybe Councillor Timpson can refresh my memory if he leaned one way or the other. I'm not sure, but I think by adopting option A tonight, we're basically that we're leaving them as they are, and that clerk, this is your report. The option to consider becoming a committee is still on the table.
Through you, Mayor Lawrence, that's correct. There a motion to keep the two communities in their current status doesn't preclude conversations about them becoming community committees in the future. Absolutely.
Yeah.
Okay.
And that could happen sometime over the next 6 months. Sorry, go ahead, Councillor Nagle.
Oh, no, I would support option A for now and leave it for 2022, and we'll see what the next council wants to do as well that's elected.
Yeah.
Councillor Timpson.
Yeah, I would like to move that forward a bit for the Environment Committee, because they would like to discuss it immediately and not wait till 2022.
So that I think you could just, I think staff's heard you on that and can help the Environment Committee with that discussion. Is that right, Clerk? Yeah.
Through Mayor Lawrence, yes. So the process would just be that conversation would be added to the next or an upcoming Environment Committee agenda. And if the committee wishes, I would be happy to attend to discuss some of the implications of both options if that's so desired.
Fair enough, Councillor Timpson. Yeah.
Yeah, yes, I'm happy with that. Good.
Councillor Lego.
Just moving on to the second recommendation to eliminate the other committees. I don't have an issue with eliminating the other committees as listed. So support 1A and support number 2.
And if we, Councillor Howie. Yep.
Yeah, I was just going to echo that I do believe keeping the Municipal Truth and Reconciliation, excuse me, Reconciliation Committee is very important, especially when 95% of the applicants did indicate that they were satisfied with that, and 71%. So 71% of the committee did respond. Pretty similar uptake with the Municipal Environment Committee, and obviously the Municipal Environment Committee does prefer to remain at least in this preliminary survey, to be in an advisory capacity where, you know, the 60% of the Municipal Truth and Reconciliation Committee was indifferent. So I do believe it is important to keep it the status quo. It's also very important that the municipality does maintain these groups in an advisory role, as Councillor Timpson said, demonstrating our position and commitment to both reconciliation within our community and our region, and the environment, as there will be many pressing issues, and some issues of the environment have already come before this council, and I'm sure will even before the next election. So I do support recommendation 1A, and just like Councillor Lego said, with respect to the second recommendation, I do also support dissolving those councils or those committees. Sorry.
Councillor Bath.
Good. Yes, I concur with that. I support A1 and 2.
Thank you. We're getting an idea, Clerk, how you'll frame up your the resolution you're going to. Any further comments, Council? Councillor Timpson.
Yeah, so I was hoping there could be a discussion about keeping the Hudson Area Advisory Committee as per last council, I think it was, in which the ward system was voted to be discontinued. I do feel that there is a place for that committee because it is a unique area of our municipality and an area for development. I think it would be valuable to keep a Hudson Advisory Committee and assign a council member to that in 2022 when, you know, when the election, after the election. But that's my feeling, is that we should keep the committee, the advisory committee.
Councillor Howie.
I was just going to add on what Councillor Timpson said. I think when we discussed the dissolving of the Hudson Ward, we may have toyed with the idea of a rural residence committee or advisory committee in that capacity. So maybe that's something we can also consider in lieu of a councillor having some kind of rural residence group supporting or advising the council table.
Councillor Fanlon.
I agree with Councillor Timpson. We should keep the advisory committee and see if we can make it work until the new term of government comes in and they have a chance to look at it too. Because I think it's viable. It's just got to work together a little more. So.
Thank you, Council. Councillor Cassidy.
I also support the option of going back to the Truth and Reconciliation and Environment committees as well. I think it's important to hear from the volunteers on how what the best value for their time that they put forward is. So I welcome keeping that at option A. The other one I'm looking at in option 2 that I feel is somewhat important, especially with the amount of development going on in town, is the Economic Development Commission. I just wonder if the approach that we went with before was the right approach to it. I went to a few of those meetings and it was literally just a quick lunch hour update and that's it. There wasn't a lot of time for dialogue. There wasn't time for that. So maybe there's options there where maybe it's bi-monthly, maybe it's in the evening and it's something that's maybe a little more engaging with members of the public and the people on the committee that can ask questions and engage a little more, have some dialogue, have some initiatives. And I think some of the committee members that I've talked to about it, it felt like they were just brought there once a month and given an update on what's going on and that was it, see you later. So it is hard to get value out of that. So maybe the approach to that committee needs to change. I think having some kind of economic development committee in town is important to keep those networks alive and keep some networking between different businesses and different organizations. That would be one I would potentially like to at least keep on hiatus until a later date and not actually get rid of yet. And maybe staff maybe there's a different approach we can take with that.
CIO.
Through you, Mayor Lawrence, just a quick comment on Councillor Cassidy's observations about the committee. I have some ideas moving forward and how that can be accomplished. So I will report back to council at a later date with reference to that.
One step ahead of
Yeah.
me already.
I'm just going to ask a question, and I suppose it's CAO or clerk, and make a comment here. I'm in favor actually of 1A. I think that keeping TRC and environment, and I'm in favor of 2, the recommendation 2. I think it's time to clean the slate, and if I think for the Hudson Advisory Committee, I've heard enough about, I think, rather dysfunction, and the interest shown on the survey sort of speaks a little bit to that. And with all respect, that seems to be the case. With respect to staff resources and staff workload right now, I don't think I think they're very stretched. And I think, and my question is to CAO or clerk, if we dissolve them tonight, can we as a council in 3 months create a new economic development committee or a new Hudson Advisory Committee if we choose to, perhaps with the different terms of reference? There's nothing stopping council from doing that, is there? Clerk.
Through you, Mayor Lawrence, yes, that's correct. And I would, in listening to some of the comments this evening, I would suggest that approach. I think looking at the terms of reference for some of the committees, I think rescinding the committees now, and then if there is a desire to have, I mean, one of the things that has been a challenge for many years is that the Economic Development Committee is how it operates, but it's actually a commission, and that has been a challenge. So I think it's time to dismantle, if you will, the commission, and then if there is a desire to have an Economic Development Committee with a different type of terms of reference and mandate, then that absolutely could be looked at. And I would recommend the same with respect to either Hudson, as Councillor Timpson discussed, or a Rural Residents Committee, as Councillor Howie discussed. Again, that would be a different sort of terms of reference and a different approach. And so I would encourage that as an option for the future. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Lego.
Yeah, I think all the committees in the second part, they can be run by community-based people getting together with similar interests. And if anything comes up that they want to discuss with council, they can come as a delegation to discuss those issues. So I could see them using that route instead of it being structured and run by the municipality, staff time, dysfunction in some committees. I think that people of like mind and joining together and working together as a committee, not run by the municipality, but coming to us and presenting when they have needs or they want to express concerns. I think that would be a better time served.
So council, what I could do is put a resolution, ask the clerk for a motion that basically says adopt 1A and recommendation 2, and given the discussion that we've had tonight, you can decide whether you're in favor of that or not. Clerk, is there I've read the first part of the, I think I did read 7.5 without getting a mover or a seconder.
Through Mayor Lawrence, yeah, we do have a mover and seconder. I would suggest that the second part of the resolution just be amended so that it would read that council directs staff to take the necessary steps to implement staff recommendation 1A and 2, respecting council appointed boards, commissions, and committees.
And we had a mover, so I now need to go to that mover and ask, is that correct?
Yes, that would be Councillor Fenelon.
Councillor Fenelon.
Sorry, what was that, Ryan?
Sorry, yeah, we were just going to reword the second part of the recommendation. It would, just to be more specific, because right now it just says staff's recommendations, but there's multiple recommendations. So we were just going to make them specific to 1A and 2, just so that it's clear what council's direction to staff is.
Okay.
So we have a mover and a seconder for that recommendation?
Yeah.
All right, so I'll call the vote on the recommendation as per the clerk's reading. All in favor? Carried. And that concludes the items requiring separate discussion. No delegations. Bylaws. I will let you go through the bylaws, Mr. Clerk. Thank you.
Through you, Mayor Lawrence, thank you very much. So 2 bylaws for council's consideration for 3 readings and passing this evening. Bylaw number 104-21, being a bylaw to authorize the delegation of authority to the Chief Administrative Officer, the Clerk, and the Treasurer to conduct certain business of the Corporation of the Municipality of Sioux and its council during the 2022 municipal election restricted acts period. And a bylaw number 105-21 being a bylaw to amend the Corporation of the Municipality of Sioux Comprehensive Zoning Bylaw number 85-18 as amended, 94 King Street.
Moved by Councillor Lego, seconded by Councillor Timpson. All in favor? Carried. Notices of motions to reconsider. We have none. Outside resolutions, none. Councillor reports. Starting at the bottom left of my screen, Councillor Cassidy. I'm not sure if everybody's screen appears the same way. No, everybody's is different. Okay.
Yeah, for me, it's fairly busy with lots of other things, but had a special council meeting, environment committee meeting, and attended the Remembrance Day ceremonies at the Legion and laid the wreath for the municipality as well. So.
And thank you for doing that. Councillor Bath.
It's been extremely busy. Not all council business, unfortunately, or fortunately. I had a meeting with Pace and Hydro as normal. We've had them. One of the interesting things that came out in both our last Pace meeting and the upcoming Hydro meeting is that the members are choosing to stay virtual. And it's interesting because I was quite surprised actually. In the case of Pace, we were talking about buying new computers and looking at office space and whatnot, and the discussion went around to, maybe we don't need any of that anymore. Maybe all these meetings can be virtual. And in the last, our coming Hydro meeting, it's the same thing. The members said we'd rather be virtual. So that's kind of interesting. That's where it's going. And I believe that's going to be more common than not. And, once you get used to doing it, as we mostly are now, works pretty darn good.
You were on mute that whole time, Councillor Beth. I'm sorry we didn't. No, I'm just kidding. It works pretty good. Councillor Timpson.
I've had 2 library board meetings, and we're in the process of recruiting a new CEO and a new assistant librarian. Interviews have been done, and I haven't had an update as to whether we have acquired anyone yet. Hopefully we will, and we'll be able to move on with the library soon. Hospital board, we're planning a retreat between the board and staff, as well as we have hired a firm that will be doing a workplace culture assessment of the hospital. Environment committee, Jenny Well and myself, we put together a little article for the bulletin on for Waste Reduction Week, and just on the value of reducing your waste and how reducing waste contributes to lowering greenhouse gases and so on. Let's see, and Truth and Reconciliation Committee one time. Yeah, I think that's it for me, other than regular meetings we've had. Okay.
Thank you. Councillor Lego.
Yeah, I've been relatively quiet, just the one special council meeting. Got to spend 5 days at home isolating, trace contact. So I was negative, but which is a good thing. And I couldn't go to the Legion because being unvaccinated, I'm not allowed in there. So I did my moment of silence at home.
Thank you. Councillor Fenlon.
Yeah, I had a LCC meeting yesterday, evening time, and attended, I think it was the Sunday council meeting there for a bit. And the LCC license, talking around the table, I guess, is trying to get ready for putting one of the Laxual reports to work on the plan. And that's it.
Thank you. Councillor Howie.
Yeah, I attended the retirement party for Rob Fabat, former fire chief in Sioux. I also attended the special council meeting. I did attend the Remembrance Day ceremony as well at the Legion. And I've also received my booster shot, and I encourage everyone that is eligible and consenting to do so, that they do receive their COVID-19 vaccine or their flu shot. The door is open for both right now. So.
Thank you. We've had Northwest Health Unit regular board meeting and also some special meetings, just about to award a contract to a consultant for our strategic planning process. IMO Health Task Force got a short meeting which Minister Thibodeau made a presentation on the opioid crisis. TRC committee regular meeting, KDSB, same as a health unit, we're just a little bit a step farther ahead in the strategic planning process. Northwestern Health Unit, KDSB, we had a joint meeting of chairs and the EDs regarding putting a joint presentation to the Kenora District Municipal Association we'd each have our own independent ones, but we'd come together for a partial joint session. And the various council meetings that we've held over the last month or so. Yeah, I guess we're moving into closed session to discuss matters, subject matter relating to a proposed or pending acquisition or disposition of land by the municipality or local board pursuant to the Municipal Act 2001 as amended section 239, one item, property east of the airport. Also, subject matter relating to a position, plan, procedure, criteria, or instruction to be applied to any negotiations carried on or to be carried on by or on behalf of the municipality or local board pursuant to the Municipal Act 2001 as amended, section 239. Three items, airport matters, police services, and development matters. And finally, subject matter relating to labor relations or employee negotiations pursuant to the Municipal Act 2001 as amended, section 239. One item, staffing matters. So a motion to move into closed session at 8:54 p.m. Moved by Councillor Bath, seconded by Councillor Timpson. All in favor? Carried. So we'll now click to join the closed session. Did we all travel through space? Let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4.
Jackie.
5, 6. Have we all made it? 4. One missing.
I'm good. Yeah.
Oh, Councillor Timpson's just not at her desk. Are you there, Councillor Timpson? There we are. All present and accounted for? Yes. Report out from closed session. Ratification of resolutions and bylaws. The council ratifies motions direction given to staff relative to the items presented in closed session on November 17th, 2021 as follows. Deputy Clerk or Clerk?
Through you, Mayor Lawrence, the council ratifies direction provided to staff in closed session respecting property east of the airport, development matters, police services, and staffing matters.
Correct. Moved by Councillor Bath, seconded by Councillor Timpson. All in favor? Carried.
And we just have two more quick motions to pass. The first one, or I guess the second one, that council authorizes the passing of bylaw number 109-21, being a bylaw to authorize the mayor and clerk, the mayor and the clerk to execute an agreement between the corporation of the municipality of Sioux and Morgan Fuels, Inc. for the provision of 100 LL avgas distributor services at the Sioux Airport.
Moved by Councillor Fenlon, seconded by Councillor Cassidy. All in favor? Carried.
And the last motion is that council gives first, second, and third readings to bylaw number 109-21.
Moved by Councillor Bath, seconded by Councillor Fenlon. All in favor? Carried.
And then, the motion, the confirmatory bylaw motion, please.
You'll have to negotiate that with us now. We might just want to sit here for a while.
We have less than a minute before the meeting is automatically adjourned at 11.
That bylaw number 111-21 being a bylaw to confirm the proceedings of Sioux Municipal Council regular meeting November 17th to be read first, second, third time and passed. Moved by Councillor Lego, seconded by Councillor Timpson. All in favor? Carried. And we say good night in our usual way. Thank you very much, everybody.
Thanks, everybody.
Thanks, everyone.
Good night, everyone.
Good night, everyone.
Good night.